Murungdus' brows knitted together tightly as though he was tied up and roasted on fire, in a dilemma. Just at this moment, Li Moying's voice suddenly rang. Since Sect Master Kui has already said this, then if our sect doesn't take up the challenge, it is indeed unacceptable. This arena tournament. We naturally must fight. No one expected Li Moying to say anything at this point of time, so momentarily, everyone's gazes transferred onto him. Li Moying, who was dressed in black, entirely leaned against the spacious seat as he held up a wine cup in his hand. That slender, powerful and fair fingers lightly clasped the glazed cup as his posture was relaxed and elegant, his disposition cold but distinguished, as though he was a natural-born lord. Whereas by his side sat a slender and petite stunning young lady, as she watched him with a face filled with adoration. Li Moying casted a glance at the young lady beside him as he tilted his wine cup in front of her. The young lady obediently raised the wine jug and poured out wine for him personally. This scene made everyone sweat profusely when it entered their eyes. From the attitude, if they didn't know Li Moying's status and ability, they would probably thought that he was some flirtatious Casanova from the royal palace or some royalty indulged in enjoyment. Furthermore, everyone couldn't help but admire Li Moying's charm. He actually made the talented armament master act like a maid to help him pour wine. He had gained so much face. So, whoever said men cannot use their face to survive, eh? How on earth would they know that Huang Yueli was having unspoken criticisms in her heart, scolding Li Moying at least 10 times, but now was not the best time to tear things apart with this wretched man. Even Murungda was stunned by this. Only after Li Moying sipped his wine did he finally regain his senses. Ah! Moying, have you heard clearly? According to Sect Master Kui's request, you cannot take part in this tournament. Murungda's first reaction was that Li Moying only cared about flirting with Huang Yueli and had not been listening to Kui Yuanshan's request. Kui Yuanshan hurriedly said, "Junior brother Murong, what do you mean by this? Doesn't Mr. Li's words represent your sect? Since that's the case, then no matter if he heard clearly or not, a real man never goes back on his words, so it's too late for regret." What do you mean? Stop resorting to such trickery. Murongda started to get infuriated. However, Li Moying simply gave a slight smile. Master, don't be overly anxious. I heard what Sect Master Kui said. Although I cannot take part in the tournament, but Master Lung as well, right? Since he doesn't take part, surely our Celestial Light sect would be able to win, no? Master really looks down on our Celestial Light sect disciples. Actually, Celestial Light sect's younger generation disciples are full of outstanding disciples, so we may not be any worse off than Green Cloud sect. There is definitely someone who can cause raging waves. If Sect Master Kui thinks that he is assured of a win, then it may be too early to be happy. Murungda's brows knitted tightly. Moying, are you talking about your 5th junior brother? No, he's still lacking a little. Then it should be your 2nd junior brother? Not right too, then it can only be. He muttered to himself as he couldn't stop calculating. Li Moying didn't continue from his words as he allowed him to continue doing his calculations and at the same time downing the entire wine in his cup as he pushed the cup in front of Huang Yueli once again, with the meaning for her to fill up the wine. Huang Yueli pouted as she gave him a stare secretly but still lifted up the wine jug. Only while she was pouring wine, she gave a humph. What's wrong with you? You're really good at pretending as though this is as usual, intentionally bullying me. You can also listen on. Li Moying heard her soft grumbling as the smile on his lips deepened. He turned his head around and directly leaned nearer to Huang Yueli as his breath sprayed near her ear. Huang Yueli's ear immediately turned red as a shade of pink appeared on her face and she shot him an angry gaze. "WH. What are you doing?" Li Moying suppressed his voice as he softly said, "I just like to bully you. Did you only realize it today?" "You." Huang Yueli turned melancholic as she almost threw the entire jug onto him. Li Moying laughed softly as he stretched out his hand and caught the lethal weapon which was flying towards him. At the same time he secretly gave her a peck on the face. "All right, be more obedient. I'm helping you fight for a quota to enter the Mystic region to play. Can't you be more obedient for a little while?" Huang Yueli then gave her HMPH before returning back to her seat as she placed the wine jug in order. The intimate actions between the both of them would normally have caused bursts of shrieks and discussions by those who had their eyes on them. But this time round, not many people put their attention on them. Everyone was like Murongda as they were guessing the probability of Celestial Light Sect's chance of winning. Young Sect Master actually is so confident that without him, we Celestial Light Sect can still obtain victory during the arena tournament. Could it be that we indeed have outstanding young talented disciples in the sect, only that they had been outshone by eldest senior brother's glow, so usually they're not remarkable? It must be so. I'm guessing young Sect Master's choice for the arena tournament should be Sect Master's fifth disciple Luo Jiun. Mr. Luo is an 8th grade talent super genius and there's still 1 month before he turns 18, so he's allowed to take part in this arena tournament. I heard that the last time he returned from Dark Moon Forest, his ability had improved swiftly and his cultivation is already at 5th stage realm peak. Why can't the person be Mr. Lee? Mr. Lee's ability has obviously gotten stronger. He's already reached 6th stage realm 3rd level. But hasn't Master Lee been injured by the young Sect Master? Didn't the doctor say that he cannot fight with anyone within 1 month? More importantly, he's already 19 this year, right? Then he definitely cannot take part in the tournament. No, wrong, you're all wrong. I think the candidate whom young Sect Master is talking about is Sect Master's eldest young Miss Murong. Have you all forgotten about eldest young Miss Murong's innate talent and ability? Furthermore, her age is just nice. Right, you're absolutely right. How come I didn't think of that? Eldest young Miss Murong is Sect Master's daughter, so she definitely must have learnt some special inherited profound skills which ordinary people cannot match up. This means, we seldom see eldest young Miss go up against others, but young Sect Master must have seen it before, which is why he said this. Everyone started to follow what the person who started this saying, as they felt that they must have guessed it correctly. Although Murong Fei was usually arrogant and loved to tangle around Li Moying, but that 8th grade talent was genuine and her cultivation had even surpassed Luo Jiun by a huge distance. Among the younger generation of disciples, she was considered as one of the excelled ones. Only when she was being compared to Li Moying, her brilliance was outshone by his. Now that they were short of Li Moying and Li Lingchuan, who else was there in Celestial Light Sect? Wasn't the important task of reviving the sect going to be entrusted to Murong Fei? Murongda paused for a while. Apparently his thoughts had followed along with the crowd. He turned his vision towards Murong Fei. Feiya, I'd never thought that even your eldest senior brother thinks so highly of you. He believes that you can represent the sect to stand out in this battle, making every effort to save the desperate situation. You can also listen on. Since that's the case, then this arena tournament will all depend on you. Murongda smiled as he looked at his daughter, feeling delighted somehow. He had swept past all the outstanding young disciples in the sect and his conclusion was, other than Li Moying and Li Lingchuan, Murong Fei was absolutely the most outstanding among all the younger disciples. So the person who Li Moying mentioned could revive the sect, other than her, who else could it be? Even though Murong Fei's performance today had been obstinate and unruly, which made Celestial Light Sect embarrassed. But her potential had actually obtained Li Moying's recognition. This wasn't something which was easily done. Li Moying's standard was so high, it seemed as though this was his first time praising other people's ability. Thinking of this, Murongda felt that Murong Fei seemed more pleasing to the eye right now. Murong Fei herself was feeling extremely proud. She was just thinking that she had spent all her time on cultivation recently and had advanced to the 6th stage realm just so that she could perform in front of Li Moying to show that she was worthy of him, unlike that little slut who had neither potential nor status. She thought Li Moying didn't notice her. So, eldest senior brother had it all in his mind, the only thing was he didn't talk about it. Murong Fei couldn't help but took a glance at Li Moying with an expression filled with tender affection as unlimited hope suddenly started to rise towards him once again. Huang Yueli was eating something with her lips pouted when she noticed Murong Fei's sight and suddenly feeling stuffed, she almost threw up the things in her mouth. She kicked Li Moying hard in his foot to vent her anger. Li Moying turned to look at her in puzzlement. Leah, why are you unhappy now? Huang Yueli raised her chin as she indicated to him to look at Murong Fei. There, your legendary fiancé is staring at you right now. Li Moying took a glance at Murong Fei and instantly understood what happened as he laughed out and touched Huang Yueli's soft hair, laughing lightly. Why are you jealous of that Dumbo? There's only one person who is my fiancé. Murong Fei was hoping that Li Moying would give her some encouragement. But she didn't expect that Li Moying would just throw her an indifferent glance and started to flirt with Huang Yueli again. These two people just showed the world their love, making everyone envious of their relationship. But in Murong Fei's eyes, it was an extreme hindrance. She couldn't take it anymore as she hurriedly puffed up her chest and said loudly, "Father, eldest senior brother, rest assured. I will try my best to secure the 70% quota for our sec." She thought that by doing so, Li Moying would definitely take a look at her. However, Li Moying still didn't raise his head as all he could be bothered to do was to scoop soup for Huang Yueli. Kui Yuan Shan clapped his hands as he spoke in a deep voice. "Great. It's good that eldest young miss is so confident. She's really a moldable talent among the younger generation. Congratulations, junior brother Murong, for having such a good daughter. Since this is so, then we shall firm up the arena tournament like this. We shouldn't drag this on for too long, so after 7 days, our two sects shall jointly hold the arena tournament publicly. We'll like to invite President Hu to be our witness, and also let's invite a few South and West Sky regions' reputable practitioners to be the judge. What do you say?" Actually, Kui Yuan Shan was feeling puzzled. He had seen Murong Fei's ability previously. Not only was it not comparable to Li Moying's, as compared to Li Lingchuan, she was also miles apart. Li Moying actually saw her as Celestial Light Sect's hope. Was he really that blind? Or could it be that there was some inside news which he didn't know about? But Kui Yuan Shan himself had a trump card in his hands, so he wasn't too worried that the Green Cloud sect would lose. You can also listen on. Murong De was so confident now, so he naturally wouldn't reject this proposition. "Alright, then we shall agree on this. Since the big matter has been set plus the fact that the atmosphere at the banquet wasn't really that good, so no one wanted to stay on any longer. After the official matters had been set, the reception quickly came to an end. This banquet was filled with twists and turns, and many shocking internal news were exposed. Lastly, the decision regarding the two sects arena tournament agitated everyone's feelings, so most of the people were not concerned about having any food. The only person who had a great meal was Huang Yueli. When Li Moying wanted to lead her back, she looked sorry as she saw the amount of food left behind on the table. "This shrewish fish slices ******** is really yummy, even yummier than how I usually prepared it." Li Moying looked at her salivating look as he couldn't help but felt it was a funny sight. "Alright, little gluttony cat, it's just a fish. Do you need to be like this? Have I starved you every day or what?" Huang Yueli rolled her eyes at him. "What do you know? Eating is a kind of enjoyment, not just for the sake of filling your tummy." Li Moying looked at her pampered and arrogant look as he helplessly shook his head. "Look, you've eaten so much that your little tummy is popping out. Stop eating and go home. The chef in our sect lives just up the mountain and he will not run away. If you really like to eat this so much, I'll get him to come to our home to cook for you tomorrow." Huang Yueli's eyes shone. "Really? I want to ask him what exclusive recipe does he have to be able to cook it in such a way which tastes much more delicious than mine? How could it be?" Li Moying had to coax and lie to her before he could drag his little gluttony cat out of the main hall. Whoever knew that they had just stepped out of the main hall when they bumped into the very person whom they didn't want to see the most, Murong Fei. Their faces instantly sunk as Huang Yueli tugged Li Moying's sleeve, wanting to bring her fiancé away. But Murong Fei herself went right up as she spoke out aloud. "Eldest senior brother, wait for me. You're really slow in coming out. I've been waiting for you for the longest time." Li Moying's gaze was cold as he didn't say a word. Huang Yueli, however, gave a chilly laugh. "Eldest young Miss Murong, the banquet has long ended, so why are you here waiting for my fiancé? Could it be that you've realized that your apology was too superficial earlier, so you're waiting here specially to re-apologize to me?" Murong Fei was stuffed by her words as she almost flared up again. She clenched her teeth as she spoke back in a bad mood. "Why should I apologize to you? Although you're the armament refining talent which President Hu values highly, but it's for the sect's regulations, which was why I asked you to change seat. Earlier the apology was so that my father could get off the stage, so stop being so self-centered. Alright, I have official matters to discuss with my eldest senior brother, so go back on your own. She then waved her hand at Huang Yueli, indicating for her to leave by herself. Huang Yueli was indeed stunned and a little surprised. What medicine had Murong Fei taken to suddenly display such boldness? Huang Yueli laughed coldly. There's something interesting. What official matters could you have with Mo Ying to discuss about? Moreover speaking, I'm Mo Ying's fiancé and he never hides anything from me, so just speak it out here directly. Murong Fei spoke out proudly. So what if your eldest senior brother's fiancé? You're just a vase. Armament masters can't do anything in the arena tournament. You'd better leave quickly. I have to discuss with my eldest senior brother regarding the arena tournament, which is a huge matter in Celestial Light Sect. It's not something which people of low ability like you can take part in. Huang Yueli blinked her eyes as she said in surprise, surely you don't really think that. Mo Ying thinks highly of you. You can also listen on. Murong Fei spoke in a matter-of-course manner. That's of course, other than eldest senior brother and second senior brother, I'm the strongest among the younger generation of disciple. If he didn't think highly of me, don't tell me he thinks highly of you. Huang Yueli looked at her delighted expression as she suddenly couldn't help but started laughing. But she merely shrugged her shoulders. Alright, then allow me to remind this most powerful senior sister Murong a gentle reminder. Since Green Cloud Sect dares to state such a condition, then they must have come well prepared. Although we still can't tell what trump card Sect Master Kui has now, then you must prepare yourself properly, in case your boat overturns in a narrow lane. Murong Fei was most unwilling to listen to Huang Yueli's advice. She immediately gave a cold humph. Do I need to listen to your advice? I know this much clearer than you. That's the reason why I came to look for eldest senior brother, so that we can discuss this properly. She looked towards Li Moying in a pleading gaze, blinking her delicate and attractive eyes which was sparkling with a bewitching glare. One got to admit that Murong Fei was indeed a beauty who was rarely seen, and she knew how to display herself to her own advantage, so when she acted pitiful, she indeed had the capability to bewitch a man, which was why so many men had fallen down under her feet. Only thing was this act of hers was totally ineffective towards a man like Li Moying. Li Moying remained expressionless as he coldly spat out the two words, not free. Murong Fei was instantly stunned. She had searched for such a good excuse to get close to Li Moying, thinking that he would at least pay some attention to her for the sake of the sect's benefit. However, reality was out of her expectations. Just as Murong Fei was in a daze, Li Moying had already hooked Huang Yueli's waist and leading her to leave this place in quick steps. Eldest senior brother, wait. Murong Fei started moving her legs to chase up to him, but she didn't manage to do so. She was so upset that she stomped her feet. Damn it. It's all by Ruoli, that little vixen's fault. Things will not end so simply today. Just you wait, after I cut a shine at the arena tournament, I'll take care of you then. Huang Yueli faintly heard Murong Fei's cursing. Li Moying frowned as he grew unhappy and wanted to turn back to give Murong Fei a beating. But he had just moved when Huang Yueli guessed what he was thinking about, as she stretched out her hand to grab hold of him. Wait a minute, what are you trying to do? Don't tell me you're intending to deal with Murong Fei. Li Moying replied coldly, this woman is just too irritating. Today she had insulted you several times, so how would it do if I don't teach her a lesson? Huang Yueli immediately replied, don't be like this. If you want to teach her a lesson, there are plenty of chances to do so. Now Celestial Light Sect still requires her eldest young Miss Murong to win the quota for entering the Mystic region. If you were to injure her, then Celestial Light Sect's benefits would be a huge loss. Li Moying turned his head around as his perfectly shaped peach blossom eyes sparkled with a cold glint, looking at her as he helplessly shook his head. You are speaking sarcastically again. You're really a pampered, arrogant and black-bellied little fox. You obviously know that I had agreed to hold the arena tournament because you told me that you are certain you can defeat Green Cloud Sect's disciples and obtain victory in the tournament. Otherwise I can't be bothered with these matters. Since this is the case, what's the difference if Murong Fei was around or not? Huang Yueli shook her head as she smiled mysteriously. What do you mean by there's no difference? The difference is extremely huge. I'm not the past life you. How can I defeat every single opponent? I can only manage those extremely powerful ones only. So before I go up on stage, there definitely must be a cannon fodder to help me block out the rest. You can also listen on. Tell me, is there anyone else who is more suitable than eldest young Miss Murong to be this cannon fodder? Huang Yueli's eyes opened wide as she spoke in a very sincere tone. So, it's extremely important for Murong Fei's body to remain healthy at this point of time, so you're not allowed to touch even one strand of hair on her. Even if I suddenly wanted to punch her out of fury, you have to stop me. Do you understand or not? In order for the cannon fodder to extend its largest use, it was necessary for her to tolerate with this moment of fury. She understood clearly that there was a degree or priority for every matter. Li Moying laughed as he shook his head, thinking in his heart that if Murong Fei were to find out about that in his little fox's eyes, she was just merely cannon fodder while she was still acting so delightfully, assuming that she would be the savior for Celestial Light Sect, what would she feel? She probably might just throw up blood on the spot and fainted. No way, in order for the cannon fodder to retain its value, this news absolutely cannot be casually revealed. Li Moying suddenly recalled a matter as he suddenly kept away his smile as he asked solemnly, Leah, tell me honestly, how certain are you to be able to defeat all of Green Cloud Sect's contenders to retain the position of Arena Master? Huang Yueli blinked. About this. She was a little guilty, about 50% I guess, 50%. Li Moying's forehead creased tightly as he grabbed her shoulders while howling by the side of her ear. Aren't your guts a little too much? Just 50% chance and you actually agreed. Huang Yueli immediately covered her ears. Aya, you are, can't you be a little softer, my ears are going deaf. Li Moying then took a deep breath as he lowered his voice, but his tone was still extremely unhappy. What on earth are you doing? I thought you were very sure of your own ability and trusted you, which was why I agreed to the arena tournament. In the end you're telling me that you are only 50% sure that you can win? Huang Yueli pouted as she said, hey, you're not like this in the past. Do you need to be so exaggerated? 50% is already considered a very high percentage. There are so many scenarios which could happen in an arena tournament, many of which I cannot totally control. For example, that Green Cloud Sect's Sect Master Kui. He definitely has a trump card up his sleeve, just that we don't know what it is. And how long can the cannon fodder eldest young Miss Murong hang on? I also don't know, so all these are counted into the success or failure probability. Hearing her grumbles, Li Moying then realized that he really seemed to be overly agitated. A practitioner with outstanding innate talent wanting to break through oneself to become a real top expert, other than cultivating hard, it was also very important for one to ignite their own potential during a crisis. So in their past life, both he and Huang Yueli were practitioners who dared to take risks, and because of that, they were able to become 9th stage realm super top expert. At that time, as long as he had a 20 to 30% certainty, he would have a go at it. What more for a 50% certainty? To him this was extremely high. At that time, since when had he considered so much? Actually, even if it was this lifetime, while he was outside learning through experience, he seldom gave up any opportunities right in front of his eyes, even if he needed to take a huge risk. But when he faced Huang Yueli, he turned into a coward. Perhaps it was because of Huang Yueli's terrible death in her past life which left him a huge trauma. So the minute he heard that she had only 50% certainty, he immediately became overly anxious. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli saw that he kept silent as she stretched out her arm to embrace his neck, rubbing her soft face against his. All right, rest assured. I will definitely let Celestial Light Sect obtain the 70% quota into the Mystic region, and I will also improve my ability. Part of the reason why she wanted to take part in the arena tournament was to help Li Moying, but the more important reason was because she wanted to use the battle to temper herself. Her cultivation had advanced very quickly in the past year, but her experience training just wasn't enough. Other than the few times which she had been pursued entering a life and death situation, there were very few battle experiences. A practitioner's potential could only be spiked in the middle of a battle. So taking part in this kind of arena tournament to her was a huge aid. Li Moying naturally understood this very well, so he coordinated with her actions. Thinking of this, Li Moying stretched out his arm, placing it on her slender waist as he drew her closer slowly, bringing her entirely into his embrace. Leah, I'm only worried about you. Huang Yueli smiled as she said, relax, I've already got plans. There's still 7 days before the arena tournament, so I will grasp my time tightly to continue cultivating. After that, I'll attempt to break through to the 5th stage realm. These kinds of words, even to Li Moying's ears, also made him silently shock. A 14-year-old young lady. No, 15-year-old. Huang Yueli had actually passed her 15-year-old birthday in the inheritance tower, so now she was officially of marriageable age. But even though she was older by 1 year, to be able to break through to 5th stage realm at 15 years old was still a shocking and terrifying record. Could it be that she really was able to do this? This was simply too abnormal. Li Moying looked at the young lady in his arm passionately. Even though she was already by his side daily, and even sleeping next to him, but sometimes she was still able to surprise and shock him. Every day, he would admire and love her a little more than the day before. You have just advanced to 4th stage realm peak not too long ago, so if you're going to upgrade your cultivation again, would it be too quick? Has your cultivation already stabilized? The dangers of advancing too quickly, you know it all too well yourself, surely you don't need me to say anything more, right? Li Moying spoke out about his worries. Because he knew Huang Yueli had once reached the 9th stage realm and had her own set of cultivation method, so towards her cultivation methods, he never dabbled in it. But this time round, she was going to advance to a new huge realm again, so this made Li Moying slightly worried. Huang Yueli said, indeed slightly too fast, so if it's not absolutely necessary, I do not intend to advance within this period of time. I just don't know what Kui Yuan Shan is plotting, so under circumstances where I have no choice, it's better for me to make preparations for advancement first. Li Moying held her little hand. All right, as long as you know what's your bottom line. Huang Yueli spoke out again, during my advancement, I may need some ingredients, so I need your help to prepare it. Relax, these small things, just let your fiancé handle it. Li Moying smiled as he kissed her. This day, they were all tired out. So after discussing the official matters, they quickly settled down to rest. The next day, Li Moying was called by Murongde once again. Huang Yueli was in the residence when she heard a loud knocking on the door. Before Li Moying left, he told her that the chef who made the boiled fish slices was going to come over today. You can also listen on. When Huang Yueli heard the knocking sound, she thought the chef had arrived, so in a moment of excitement, even before Moyi could inform her, she already ran out. Chef Lin, I heard Moying mentioned that you worked in Sky Emperor City. Ah, who are you? The minute she ran to the door, Huang Yueli took a careful look and her footsteps took a halt as she frowned in puzzlement. Standing in front of her was a young man dressed in a navy blue long robe. He was tall and had good-looking features, totally able to tell that he was a top expert. Somehow, he even looked slightly familiar. But Huang Yueli totally couldn't recall who he was. The person who came also went into a daze as his handsome face revealed a shocked expression. Miss Bai, you don't remember me? We just met yesterday. Yesterday? Huang Yueli blinked as she totally had no impression. Her attention was totally on Li Moying yesterday and they only had each other in their eyes, so where would she find the space to remember another man? The guest seemed slightly disappointed as he sighed. Miss Bai, let me introduce myself. I'm the eldest disciple from Green Cloud Sect, Lung Yifeng. Does it ring a bell now? Oh, Huang Yueli merely responded in this manner, because to tell the truth, she did have the impression, but she really couldn't remember what he looked like. After all, no matter what, he wasn't as handsome as her fiancé, nor did he have the disposition that her fiancé had. For someone as picky as her, the exceptional handsome males in other people's eyes were almost the same as air in her eyes. So the only impression she had of Lung Yifeng was, he was Li Moying's defeated opponent. Lung Yifeng saw her enlightened look, but he had not expected himself to have been categorized as a trash. He was thinking that it was his good looks which made the beauty gain some interest. He revived his senses as he said, Miss Bai, it's really a pleasure to meet you. Yesterday, just after one look, it felt like old friends at our first meeting. Too bad our distance was too far apart, so we didn't manage to say a word to each other. Now we finally have the chance to meet. You look even prettier close up. Young Sect Master Li is really lucky. Huang Yueli felt that these words seemed rather weird. However, Leng Yifeng was obviously not some good guy, so she didn't want to interact too much with him as she said, "You're here to look for Moying, right? Too bad he's been called by the sect master, so do come back another day. I'll excuse myself first." She turned around about to leave when Leng Yifeng hurriedly stopped her. "Miss Bai, please wait a moment." Leng Yifeng's potential was an exception. Although he wasn't an equal match to Li Moying, but he was still a 6th stage realm 7th level top expert. Among the younger generations, he was a terrifying genius. No matter if it was in terms of profound grade, cultivation method, or actual combat experience, he was extremely outstanding in all aspects. Huang Yueli was blocked by him and wasn't able to root past him, so she could only stop in her footsteps. Her expression sunk. "Master Leng, may I know what can I do for you?" Leng Yifeng plainly paused as he didn't know how to open his mouth. Huang Yueli frowned as she continued, "If there's nothing, then please, Miss Bai, I have something to say to you." Leng Yifeng seemed as though he was determined as he suddenly raised his head to open his mouth. Huang Yueli knew that she wasn't his match, so she could only shrug her shoulders. "All right, please go ahead." Leng Yifeng said, "Right here? What's the matter?" "Not able to." Huang Yueli found this place rather suitable. Leng Yifeng shook his head. "The matter which I'm going to tell you is very important and cannot be heard by others. It's best that we find a secluded place to talk about it. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli's eyebrows rose, deepening the feeling that this fellow was up to no good. But as this was Li Moying's turf, she gauged that Leng Yifeng had no way to do any overly exaggerated actions, so she might as well listen to what he wanted to say. "All right then, will Master Leng please follow me?" Huang Yueli nodded her head, turned around and led Leng Yifeng into the front hall. She pointed at the seat on the side. "Master Leng, please have a seat. You can now speak whatever you wanted to say." Leng Yifeng's vision swept towards Mo Yi, who stood not too far away behind Huang Yueli, as his lips curled up. "I said earlier that I hoped this matter wouldn't be heard by any outsiders, so may I trouble this shadow guard to leave us for a moment?" Huang Yueli squinted her eyes as she turned towards Mo Yi. "Brother Mo Yi, please leave us for a moment." When Mo Yi heard that, his feet didn't move as he gave a hesitant look. "Third miss, no problem, just go on. Master Leng is here to discuss matters with me and harbors no evil intention, so there won't be any danger." Mo Yi thought about it, and listening to her, he turned around to leave. But after he left the front hall, he hurriedly called for a maid to pass the message over to young Sect Master quickly. He wasn't worried that Huang Yueli would get into any trouble. Towards this future mistress ability, Mo Yi was extremely confident. If Leng Yifeng had any designs on her, the person who would get into deep *T would be himself. But no matter how Mo Yi looked, this Leng Yifeng seemed to harbor some intentions towards Huang Yueli, because the gaze he casted upon her could clearly tell that he was some ulterior motive. This matter must absolutely be conveyed to Li Moying immediately, otherwise he won't be able to absolve himself of the blame. In the study room, Huang Yueli calmly shot a glance at Leng Yifeng as she spoke out. "Master Leng, there's no one else now. This room is also set up with a soundproof array, so you need not worry that anyone else is eavesdropping on us. Feel free to speak your mind." Ever since Leng Yifeng saw her at the entrance, he had been keeping his eyes on her. After Huang Yueli broke through to the 4th stage realm, her looks became extremely outstanding, with a natural-born aloofness and elegance, so beautiful that it left a deep impression. When Leng Yifeng saw her rushing out with a huge smile on her face, his heart started floating, feeling that he made the right choice in coming over today. Alas, the minute Huang Yueli saw him, the smile on her face disappeared, and that made Leng Yifeng extremely disappointed. He smiled at Huang Yueli only to realize that his smile towards other women, which was usually successful, had no effect on Huang Yueli at all. This elegant and outstanding little beauty didn't even bat an eye at him. In fact, she even displayed faint impatience. Leng Yifeng silently clenched his teeth as he opened his mouth. "Miss Bai, my apologies for asking. Yesterday at the banquet, I heard that you are young sect master Li's prenatal betrothal fiancé, is that true? Huang Yueli hadn't expected him to ask about this as she frowned slightly. Master Leng, yesterday Moying should have already introduced my identity, isn't it? Furthermore, even if he didn't, everyone should be able to tell what kind of relationship we have. The underlying meaning was, asking this kind of question, are you blind? Leng Yifeng had not expected her to retort him back in such an immodest manner as his expression turned slightly stiff. He was also a handsome male who had constantly been surrounded by women, and bore an existence which was admired by many in Green Cloud sect. Only thing was he usually looked down on female practitioners, feeling that it was beneath his dignity to speak to them. You can also listen on. This time round, he had finally met a young lady who barely lifted his interest, even taking the initiative to speak to her. So he had never imagined that he would actually be dismissed in such a way. This young lass obviously, when she was beside Li Moying yesterday, her face was filled with smiles and she looked extremely sweet and adorable, behaving in a sweet and helpless way. Leng Yifeng instantly felt upset. He was originally prepared to test Huang Yueli slowly, to lay some padding, but now, he wasn't able to curb the impulse in his heart. Leng Yifeng couldn't stop himself from blurting out, Miss Bai, why are you so dead set on Master Li? I heard that you just traveled over from South Yu Kingdom to look for you, but do you know what kind of person is Li Moying? He obviously had ill intentions towards you and isn't worthy of you. Huang Yueli couldn't take it whenever anyone spoke bad about Li Moying. Her forehead instantly creased as she slammed the teacup heavily back on the tea set. Master Leng, please speak politely. I invited you in not to listen to you talk bad things about my fiancé. If you're going to continue like this, then I'll have to send you out. Leng Yifeng continued, Miss Bai, you're actually so defensive of him because you don't know the truth and that I'm not lying. Did you know that before you came to Celestial Light Sect, Li Moying and Sect Master Murong's eldest daughter, eldest young Miss Murong had always been a couple? They were even discussing their marriage plans. I originally thought that they really had a good relationship, but in the end, this time round when I came over, he's actually now with you. Huang Yueli's expression grew gloomier. This is slander. My Moying had never been together with Murong Fei. That's just Murong Fei's own wishful thinking. Master Leng, looks like we have nothing to talk about already. Miss Bai, why are you holding on obstinately towards your wrong beliefs? I'm telling you, Li Moying is a snob. Think about it, he was with Murong Fei in the beginning, and why did he have a change of heart later on? Because from the start, he feels that marrying Murong Fei would enable him to become Celestial Light Sect master, so he treated her with false feelings. When a genius armament master like you appeared, he had already stabilized his position as young sect master. Now that he feels that you have an even brighter future and of much more value, he chose to be with you instead. I know Li Moying indeed looks extremely outstanding and is also apt at his sweet nothings, but please don't be coaxed by those few words of him and let it cover up your eyes on the truth. When Huang Yueli heard that, she almost laughed out of anger. In order to vilify Li Moying, Leng Yifeng really said anything he wanted to, and furthermore said it in such a way that seemed like it was the truth. If it wasn't for the fact that she and Li Moying were really in love with each other, she might really have been cheated by him. But when was Li Moying a man who said sweet nothings to coax a woman? Usually in front of other women, he was like a block of ice. Even in front of her, although he was gentle and meticulous, but he didn't quite know how to say sweet nothings. Basically, as long as he didn't intentionally teased her or made her angry, it was already an achievement. Leng Yifeng actually said such things. Did he treat her as an idiot? Furthermore, his motives were just too obvious. Huang Yueli had many pursuers who went after her, so she was still rather sensitive towards people like Leng Yifeng, who came with such attitude and the motives they had. Only, in her past life, who dared to say anything bad about Mu Chengying? This lifetime, it was indeed a rare feeling to have someone daring to say such things about him. Leng Yifeng looked at her chilled expression, but he totally wasn't aware of Huang Yueli's ridicule towards him in her heart. You can also listen on. Leng Yifeng thought that Huang Yueli believed in his words and was disappointed with Li Moying when he grabbed the opportunity and continued, Miss Bai, don't be overly upset. For someone like you who has such outstanding armament refining talent, and you're so beautiful, there are plenty of people who like you, so you'd definitely be able to find someone who is true to you. You really don't need to hang yourself around Li mowing this tree, and you totally have better choices out there. When Huang Yueli heard what he said, she raised her head and gave him a glance which didn't quite resemble a smile. Better choices? Master Lung's meaning? Could it be talking about yourself? Lung Yifeng was stunned for a moment, not expecting her to expose his motive in such a short amount of time. In fact, he was exposed almost immediately. He thought that Huang Yueli was a reserved beauty. After all, she was still young and looked so pure and harmless, as though she had no experience on BGR, boy-girl relationship, matters at all. In this way, he became slightly awkward. But Lung Yifeng felt that today was a good opportunity. He had enough chips on his hands, and while Huang Yueli was disappointed with Li Moying, she would surely be touched by him. He hurriedly responded, "If Miss Bai is willing to consider me, you will absolutely realize that I'm much more outstanding than Li Moying, and I'm definitely more worthy of you." Huang Yueli laughed out non-committally, "Master Leng, I don't quite understand what you're saying. There should be no qualms about Moying's potential and innate talent, as it indeed is much stronger than you by quite a lot. Furthermore, he is already the young sect master of Celestial Light Sect, whereas you are merely the eldest disciple of Green Cloud Sect. In terms of future, he has an edge over you. Moreover speaking, I admire his looks more, so I simply cannot see which point that you outshine him." Her tone was flat as she opened her big eyes as though she was expressing her puzzlement. But that tone bore a slight ridicule. When Leng Yifeng heard that, he immediately cried out irreconcilably, "Miss Bai, how can a man be just based on looks? Whether one is good-looking or not, it shouldn't be considered as his ability, right? Of course his innate talent is indeed much higher than mine, but I'm at least a 9th grade talent. Furthermore, the reason why I'm not the successor of the future sect master isn't because of my lack of potential, but because my family's background is larger than Green Cloud Sect, so in future I will definitely leave Green Cloud Sect." "Oh." Hearing this made Huang Yueli surprised. "Your family background isn't," Leng Yifeng replied, "I'm the direct descendant of Sky Emperor City's top 10 families, Leng family. As my master is my father's best buddy, my father sent me to Green Cloud Sect as a form of experience training, so when I turn 20, I will return to Sky Emperor City." Huang Yueli's brows rose in astonishment. Leng family in Sky Emperor City was indeed considered as a large powerhouse. For Leng Yifeng to have such a background, it was simply out of one's imagination. No wonder he was so arrogant, and no wonder he was so recalcitrant towards Li Moying. This kind of descendants in such family background were mostly high and mighty, not to mention arrogant. It was hard for them to accept a third-rated sect with someone in the same generation as them to have the ability and innate talent to completely crush themselves. Leng Yifeng continued, "Miss Bai, you should know how hard it is for ordinary practitioners to have a piece of their own heaven in Sky Emperor City. You have such great armament refining talent, so in future you'd definitely head to Sky Emperor City. But the water there runs deep, and those without a strong base would find it hard to lift up their feet. If you are with me, that would be completely different. We Lung family are absolutely a large family whose words carry weight. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli laughed as she said, "In this case, is Master Lung hinting me that you have a feelings towards me and intend to marry me?" Leng Yifeng's face revealed an embarrassed expression. Huang Yueli actually said things so clearly, totally with no shyness of an unwed young lady, which made him extremely embarrassed. But Leng Yifeng felt that she was just someone with no reservation and still didn't understood BGR matters, which was why she was so frank. There weren't many pure ladies like this nowadays. How would he guessed that Huang Yueli's shyness also depends on the person? In front of Li Moying, she wasn't like this, but towards Leng Yifeng, this kind of rotten peach blossom, she was really frank, because mainly she didn't treated him like anything at all. Leng Yifeng continued, "Miss Bai, I'm absolutely true towards you. Those who knows about my background are far and few. In fact, other than my master, there's not many others who knows about it. I'm telling this to you now because I sincerely want to be together with you. As compared to my sincerity, what can Li Moying, that man, give you? You must think about this carefully. Don't think that he's so arrogant in South Sky region now. If one day he heads to Sky Emperor City, he would be a servant whom anyone can bully. Actually, no matter what, Lee Moying's innate talent was above 9th grade, so even if he went to Sky Emperor City, he would be a talent which various large powerhouses fought over for, so how was it possible for him to become a servant? But Lung Yifeng was overly hasty in trying to win Huang Yueli over, so he intentionally exaggerated things. He was certain that Huang Yueli had just came from South Yu Kingdom, that countryside place, so she had probably only been to Sky Cloud City. Towards Sky Emperor City, the center of the entire continent, she had no idea how it was like and was very easy to deceive. Lung Yifeng was determined to win Huang Yueli over. Because President Hu had said this, that she already had the potential of a third-rank armament master, and she even had a master who was an armament master in Sky Emperor City. If he was able to pull such an armament refining talent to his side, it was considered as a huge contribution to the family and would greatly heighten his position in the family. What was more hard to find was that she was so stunning that even a twinkle or smile was enough to move one's soul. Lung Yifeng wasn't a silly fool. For a person with both talents and riches, if he passed this village, he would not come across this shop ever again. Huang Yueli already could ascertain something after she heard what he said. She originally allowed him to enter because she wanted to hear if he had any ulterior motive, and if it would affect the arena tournament. Now finding out about Lung Yifeng's background was also a kind of harvest. She was already impatient in dealing with Lung Yifeng, so she said, "Master Leng, I'm well aware of your intentions in coming here, but as you can see it, Moying and I have a very good relationship and I don't have any intention to leave him. So I can only reject your good intentions. Please leave." Lung Yifeng was stunned. Earlier he saw Huang Yueli shocked several times and had thought she was already touched by him. Whoever knew, she changed the topic and suddenly became so cold. He couldn't accept this result and couldn't help but stood up, shooting towards Huang Yueli in a few steps. "Miss Bai, why are you so stubborn? Li Moying absolutely isn't true to you." As he was saying that, he got agitated and was about to grab Huang Yueli's delicate fair hand. Huang Yueli frowned and tried to evade him. Suddenly the door of the main hall was kicked open from the outside and a gust of strong wind instantly swept towards the both of them. "You can also listen on." Huang Yueli immediately detected a familiar presence, so she totally didn't avoid it as she stood at the original spot. Lung Yifeng sensed that this gust of profound energy was extremely strong and wasn't something which he could go up against, so he hurriedly slipped to one side hoping to avoid it. However, the speed of the person was too fast and he simply could not avoid it at all. His feet had yet to shift when he was struck by that raging thunder attributed profound energy. Luckily, as Lung Yifeng was a direct descendant of the Lung family, he put on a high-leveled profound armor on him, and although he was struck, his injury wasn't very serious. Lung Yifeng gave off a dull moan as he clutched his chest and turned his head around to take a look. Standing in front of the door was Li Moying with an icy cold face. That pair of bewitching peach-blossomed eyes revealed a murderous air, as he looked towards Lung Yifeng with a frigid expression. "Master Lung, what are you trying to do to my woman?" His thin lips moved as the words which he spat out were like icicles. Lung Yifeng couldn't help but shuddered hard as he was filled with shock and terror. He didn't know why he was so afraid, that his heartbeat almost stopped. Li Moying was just a practitioner from a third-rated sect and his background was totally incomparable to his. Whenever Lung Yifeng talked about him, it was usually full of disdain, and even when he talked about him to Huang Yueli earlier, he was still belittling Li Moying with confidence. But now when he faced the real person, other than shock, Lung Yifeng's heart was still filled with shock. Too powerful. Li Moying was merely at 7th stage realm, but why was his imposing manner so powerful? Even giving off the misperception that he was facing a 9th stage realm top expert. Li Moying was radiating with coldness as he slowly walked towards Huang Yueli. When Lung Yifeng saw him nearing, he shivered as he hurriedly spoke out, Li Moying, what do you want to do?" Li Moying pulled Huang Yueli into his embrace and lifted up her face, taking a look all around, then touching her little hand to ascertain that she had not been touched by another man before he heaved a sigh of relief. But he still gave her an apprehensive look. Huang Yueli didn't know if she should laugh or cry, thinking silently that this man really was too easily jealous. Obviously nothing had happened, but why was it that the expression on his face looked as though he had drunk a whole urn of vinegar? Li Moying's icy cold glance shot towards Lung Yifeng. You dare to come harass my fiancé when I'm not around, and still trying to ask me what I'm trying to do? I want to ask, Master Lung, what are you intending to do? Your Green Cloud sect. Are you thinking of resorting to some underhanded schemes? Lung Yifeng was seen through by him as he felt extremely guilty. His trip here this time round was indeed not because of himself. At the same time it was also for Green Cloud sect. The arena tournament was at the corner, so if the gossip of Celestial Light sect's young sect master's fiancé turning towards Green Cloud sect, Celestial Light sect would definitely be deeply set back, losing all their spirit, and would be difficult for them to gain the last victory. Li Moying had always hated those houseflies which harassed his Leah, and on seeing Lung Yifeng not speaking a single word, the profound energy might in his body almost uncontrollably spread towards Lung Yifeng. Lung Yifeng found it hard to breathe under his suppression as his face turned extremely pale. The disparity between the potentials was simply too distinct. He cried out loudly, Li Moying, you're just a normal practitioner with no foundation. If you dare to be disrespectful to me, in future when you come to Sky Emperor City, I'll definitely make sure that you can't hang around there. You can also listen on. The moment Lung Yifeng's words came out, Li Moying hadn't even said a word when Huang Yueli, who was lying in Li Moying's embrace, almost burst out in laughter. Although the Lung family were considered as Sky Emperor City's powerhouse, but in front of a genius like Li Moying, it was really nothing much. In their past lives, an elder from the Lung family behaved servilely in front of Mu Chengying, displaying all sorts of cajolery and apple polishing. As long as Mu Chengying was willing to cast him a look, he was so grateful that he was in tears. Now, an ordinary member of the Lung family dared to threaten Li Moying? Huang Yueli totally was sure that Li Moying was extremely angry. Fighting with his woman was already an extremely huge sin, and now he even dared to provoke him. Based on Huang Yueli's understanding of Li Moying, Lung family was definitely blacklisted by him. In future, when he resumes his past potential, he would absolutely let the other party see some colors. The entire Lung family would probably suffer along with Lung Yifeng. However, Lung Yifeng had totally not realized that he had already caused a huge disaster. On seeing Li Moying keeping silent, he began to act in an ostentatious manner. How's that? You didn't expect that, right? That I'm actually from the Lung family? Now are you afraid? Actually, I didn't want to use my family background to bully ordinary practitioners, but for a person like you who cheats Miss Bai's feelings, forcibly occupying Miss Bai whom you aren't worthy of, then I can. 8. Lung Yifeng was halfway in his speech when he suddenly gave out a miserable cry. At the same time, his body flew up into mid-air and crashed heavily onto the door panel, staving through the door panel. By the time he landed on the ground, his entire body felt so painful that it was about to split apart, and all his internal organs felt as though it was on fire. Huang Yueli immediately covered her eyes the minute Li Moying struck. Lung Yifeng was simply looking for trouble. He could talk about anything, but he had to mention that Li Moying wasn't worthy of her. One needed to know that Li Moying hated the most to hear other people saying that the both of them weren't compatible. No matter who said one of them wasn't worthy of the other, it could easily cause him to fly into a rage. She had to say that the profound armor on Lung Yifeng was indeed some high-class stuff and extremely useful. Even after he was sent flying by Li Moying, he actually didn't faint from the shock. Lung Yifeng struggled to climb up but realized that several bones had been broken, so he totally couldn't get up at all. He could only try his best to raise his head as he stared ferociously at Li Moying. You dare. You actually dare to. Just you, wait, and Lung Yifeng used all his strength but wasn't able to even complete a full threatening sentence, so naturally there was no deterrent force at all. Even Huang Yueli rolled her eyes, feeling that he was just too retarded. Even more so for Li Moying. He couldn't even be bothered to cast him a glance as he directly waved his hand. Mo Yi and Mo Er, who were standing guard at the entrance, immediately responded as two of them stood on each side of Lung Yifeng and, lifting up his two legs, dragged him as they threw him out. You all dare to treat me in this way, let me go. Lung Yifeng's miserable screams were heard from the main hall, and Huang Yueli felt slightly comical about it, but she couldn't laugh out loud. Because right after dealing with Lung Yifeng, Li Moying's gaze immediately turned towards her as his expression was super ugly with a reprimanding look in his eyes. From this looks, it was evident that he was jealous. Huang Yueli felt that this jealous of his was just too absurd, but this man was now still fuming and was a tough nut to crack, so she didn't dare to speak out her real thoughts in her mind. You can also listen on. She gave an innocent expression. Moying, what's the matter with you? Why does your complexion seem not so well? Is it because you're too tired from work outside today? Do you want a cup of water and rest a little? I'll go pour you some tea. As Huang Yueli was saying that, she started to move backwards, trying to squirm out of his hands. How was it possible for Li Moying to let her escape? His arms withdrew and locked Huang Yueli back into his embrace, rightly locking her slender waist. Huang Yueli was held on tightly by his strength and she crashed right onto his tough, robust chest as pain hit her. Ayo, so painful, you're so fierce. She pouted her lips as she grumbled. Li Moying gave a cold humph, did the wrong thing and still tried to blame me for being fierce. Huang Yueli blinked her big eyes. What did I do wrong? Li Moying replied, I only went out for a little while and you actually let some man with ulterior motives into our house. Don't tell me that you can't tell that this Lung Yifeng had designs on you. You actually stayed in a room with him alone. Huang Yueli couldn't help but rolled her eyes. I know it. I say, can you be more reasonable? Aren't I trying to see what he wanted to do and wanted to find out if he was going to do something disadvantageous to you or Celestial Light Sect, which was why I agreed to meet him? Are you thinking that I'm interested in him? Moreover, even if he did have any ulterior motives, what can he do to me? Mo Yi and the rest have been guarding at the door and furthermore, the main hall is filled with mechanisms which I have set up. If he hatches any sinister plot on me, this mother will immediately let him see some colors. Of course Li Moying knew this clearly, that his Leah totally hadn't taken any interest in Lung Yifeng, this kind of man. He was absolutely confident of himself. But he himself didn't know why he could be so petty. Upon seeing Lung Yifeng actually daring to get near his Leah, even trying to touch her hand, he immediately got so upset that he almost killed Lung Yifeng. He swept a glance at Huang Yueli and still in an awful tone, you're not interested in him but he's interested in you. I hate it when other men use that kind of gaze on you. Huang Yueli couldn't help but burst out laughing. Please, even if 100 men take interest in me, it's useless because I only like you. Li Moying had not expected Huang Yueli to suddenly come out with such a frank confession. Those sour words of him immediately were stuffed back as he wasn't able to say a single word of it. Huang Yueli stretched out her finger as she drew circles on his chest. You have the cheek to say me. I'm the one who should be unhappy. Almost all the female disciples in Celestial Light Sect use that kind of mushy gaze to look at you, totally ignoring the existence of me, your fiancé. Especially Murong Fei, she had been chased away by me so many times but she still keeps plastering herself onto you once and again. I haven't even started to get angry, so what right do you have to show me faces, Ian? As Huang Yueli spoke, anger overcame her as she pinched him on his chest but realized that Li Moying's pectoral muscles were simply too robust and she totally couldn't pinch anything at all. This made her even more upset as she directly took a bite at Li Moying's neck. SSSSS, Li Moying drew in a mouthful of cold air. Your little fox's teeth are just a little too sharp. You almost bit me until bleeding. I'm really too innocent. When have you seen me bothering about Murong Fei? Although she keeps coming to look for trouble time and again, haven't she always been frightened out of her wits by you? When have I not fully supported you? Huang Yueli gave her HMPH, then you've also beaten up Lung Yifeng, so why are you still angry? You can also listen on. When he heard that, Li Moying could only raise both his hands and feet to concede defeat. All right, I'm at fault. Consider that I've said the wrong thing, all right? Seeing Li Moying's helpless look, Huang Yueli finally smiled as she showed her two sharp little fangs. Her smile was sweet and adorable, with a crafty expression, which looked exactly like a little fox which had just stolen a bite. Li Moying's heart moved as he uncontrollably lowered his head, placing his lips on her lovely pink lips. The next day, the news of Lung Yifeng's went round and Li Moying was called by Murongda again. Huang Yueli wasn't worried about him at all. Her fiancé's ability was right there and no one could do anything about him. Moreover speaking, Leng Yifeng was the one who started to sow the discord first, so he was at fault in the first place. Li Moying had the reason to do so. After that day, Huang Yueli also went into a half-closed door cultivation state as she started cultivating seriously. Other than the little portion of time where Li Moying had to go out, the rest of the time was basically spent cultivating with her. Towards this, Huang Yueli initially rejected it because she was a fire-attributed practitioner. When she cultivated, the surrounding fire-attributed profound qi would gather and the temperature rose quickly. She didn't feel extremely unbearable, but to the others who were in the same room as her, that would be rather uncomfortable. However, Li Moying was just like a piece of medicated plaster, tightly sticking to her. She was helpless about it, so she could only let him stay by her side as he wished. After that, Huang Yueli realized that it was much more convenient with Li Moying around. His attention was always placed on Huang Yueli. Whenever she met with a bottleneck or encountered any difficulties, he would always help her out in time, greatly increasing the success rate of her cultivation. But even so, Huang Yueli still felt that her cultivation speed wasn't fast enough. 7 days' time is just too short. I haven't even finished stabilizing my core and there are several profound skills which I have not mastered, not to mention advancing to the 5th stage realm. Sigh, if only I had a few more days' time. It was rare for Huang Yueli to feel anxious. Li Moying placed his hands on her face as he said in a mellow voice, "You've already improved very quickly. There's no one like you in the past. I've never heard of anyone whose cultivation speed could chase up to you. Even I have to bow down to your superiority. You don't need to be too hard on yourself. Sometimes forcing yourself too much would end up with a negative result." Huang Yueli pouted, "How would I not know this reason? But isn't this arena tournament very important to Celestial Light Sect? Furthermore, I have a feeling that Green Cloud Sect definitely came well prepared, and will not let us pass this stage so easily." When Li Moying heard that, his expression also turned slightly grave. Actually, he didn't mind who was the ultimate victor in the arena tournament because even if Celestial Light Sect only had 30% of quota to enter the Mystic region, it would not affect him and his Leah. But in this way, it would be very bad for Murongda's reputation. Moreover speaking, his Leah would be taking part in the tournament that day. If Green Cloud Sect came out with some sinister move, hurting Leah, then he would die of heartache. Otherwise, why not check out the situation on that day? If something's wrong then don't go up. Anyway, after we enter the Mystic region, you will have plenty of chances at actual combat. Li Moying hadn't finished his words when he was interrupted by Huang Yueli. What do you mean? How will that do? You can also listen on. If I haven't even entered the scene and just gave up upon guessing that there's some difficult situation, this would seriously affect my self-confidence. Since we've already agreed on it, just stop trying to stop me. Relax, I'm not some ignorant young lady who has no actual combat experience. The minute I'm up, no matter what situation, I will be able to protect myself properly. Huang Yueli tugged Li Moying's sleeve as she swayed him gently trying to placate him. Li Moying's feelings were slightly complicated. Actually he was merely speaking about it casually only because he understood Huang Yueli extremely well. He knew that although this young lass of his looked helpless and petite, but the bones in her were extremely tough and durable. Fleeing just before a battle was something which wouldn't ever happen to her. She had always braced moving forward, using all sorts of ways to overcome the difficulties. Furthermore, a practitioner's cultivation required this kind of dash to head forward. Otherwise it would be just like what Huang Yueli said, dampening her self-confidence and henceforth affecting her future cultivation. Even though he knew all these, but as Huang Yueli's fiancé, Li Moying still felt worried. The minute he thought of the possibility of his Leah getting hurt, he fretted so much that he kept fidgeting. Huang Yueli saw him putting on a straight face and not responding, so she leaned in closer to him. "Moying, what are you worried about exactly? On the day of the arena tournament, you will definitely be watching over me, right? I believe that if there's any real danger, you will be able to protect me." "You believe that I can protect you? I myself isn't so sure of that. Li Moying's voice sounded melancholic, seeming with a sigh. Huang Yueli knew that he must have recalled her death in her past life, as she couldn't help but stuck out her tongue, then immediately said, "Hey, I'm telling you, you're not allowed to defame my fiancé. He's extremely powerful and there's nothing that he can't do. I just believe in him." This was simply too touching to hear, as a fragrant young lass kept rubbing around his chest, making Li Moying's chest suddenly firing up. He locked his palm on Huang Yueli's waist, slowly tightening and drawing her in as his head also started to lower down. Just at this moment. "Ah, right. I thought of it." Huang Yueli suddenly bumped a fist on his chest, as she cried out in joy. Li Moying's face turned green. He was almost about to sneak a kiss on his little fox, but in the end, at the most critical juncture, not only had the cooked duck flown away, he was even inexplicably beaten up. Leah wasn't some weak young lady, and that punch of hers packed some strength in it. Was this considered as domestic violence? Huang Yueli totally didn't notice his expression, as she was still happily jumping about in his hands. "Right, I was just thinking why I've met with a bottleneck while cultivating. It's because I haven't been following the 9 Phoenix transformations requirements to soak in a medicinal bath. Although I've used the Phoenix's blood to wash my meridians, thereby successfully advancing, but the last time I discovered while in Celestial Light Academy that the medicinal bath cannot be discounted. These medicinal herbs help to replenish the flaws in my physique, otherwise my flame spirit physique is unable to be completely unsealed, so it would affect my cultivation to a certain degree. Knowing where the problem is now makes it easy to settle." Huang Yueli's eyes turned into full moons as she started computing in her mind, "Since there's still 3 days before the arena tournament, I can do a medicinal bath. Last time I asked you to help me gather those medicinal herbs, have you managed to find it?" Li Moying was still lamenting over missing that kiss and hadn't listened to her question clearly. "You can also listen on." Huang Yueli realized that he was distracted and stared at him with an unhappy glare as she leaned close to his ear. "Are you listening to me at all?" Li Moying then regained his senses as he saw his little fox putting on an angry expression as he hurriedly replied, "I heard you, I heard you. Would I dare to not do the things which you instructed me to? I've long gathered the medicinal herbs, and if you need it, I will get my men to go get it for you from the storage area." He had just been distracted for such a short moment and his little fox flew into a rage. This temper of hers was really bad. Evidently, it was all because of his pampering. Li Moying helplessly shook his head. They haven't got married and it already turned out like this. In the future, after they got married, he probably wouldn't have any status at home in future. Huang Yueli instantly gave a smile when she heard him say that. Really? You've gathered everything in such a short time? The list which I gave you has several rare medicinal herbs, and 8-tier magical beast cores. Those are worth millions of upper-grade spirit stones, and you've managed to look for it so quickly. Li Moying pinched her cheek in adoration. "The things you want, I'd definitely think of ways to get it for you, so just rest assured." Huang Yueli cheered and plunged into his hands, automatically leaning in close to him. Li Moying hadn't regained his senses when he discovered that his hands was filled with jade as a smack sound was heard and a soft touch was felt from his lips. He was actually kissed by Huang Yueli. This good fortune made Li Moying's mind blanked out momentarily. By the time he regained his senses, Huang Yueli had already jumped out of his embrace and turned her head towards him while saying, "Then what are you waiting for? Let's go get it from the storage room. There's only 3 days, so we must grasp time tightly." Saying that, she hadn't even waited for Li Moying to reply when she turned around and ran head first towards the storage room. "Wait a while, what are you her? Sigh, really?" He hadn't even had the time to say anything when Huang Yueli already ran off into the distance away. Li Moying couldn't help but shake his head. Why is she still the same as when she was younger in her past life? So excited that she couldn't hold herself down. She's really a fire-attributed practitioner. His tone sounded as though he was despising her, but his expression had an obvious smile as he stretched out his hand and touched his lips lightly. His little fox's kiss was rather loud. She really wasn't bashful at all. Wasn't it a little too short? So superficial? Did she think that he could be dismissed just like that? Very quickly, Huang Yueli found all the medicinal herbs from the storage room. She directed a few maids to bring a huge bathtub into their room, and then laying the medicinal herbs neatly, she added a sufficient amount of water. Little Phoenix was the same as in the past, as she let him out. But this time, Little Phoenix had an unwilling face, as it didn't want to coordinate with her. It's not impossible for this young master to light the fire, but you need to use drumsticks to exchange for it. Little Shota worked up his bun like a chubby face as he declared loudly. Heaven knows that ever since Huang Yueli read that guide to raising a phoenix, she had been feeding him with ultra-healthy food. He hadn't seen any kind of roasted or fried drumstick for a very, very long time. Little Phoenix felt that its bird life was pitch dark and there was nothing left for him to linger about. He had finally gotten this chance that Huang Yueli had something to request for him, so he must stand firm to fight for the necessary benefits which he ought to have. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli couldn't help but give him a stare. Why do you only think about drumsticks? You're already so fat and you still don't start dieting. Senior Huang already says you're suffering from dysplasia. Can you show some spiritual beast's pride? Little Phoenix grumbled while murmuring. Huang Yueli hadn't heard him clearly initially, so when she leaned in closer to it, she heard him mumbling, "Pride might be valuable, but the value of drumsticks is even higher." Huang Yueli didn't know if she should laugh or cry. "All right, sister here is doing this for your own good. Don't you want to turn into a powerful and gorgeous big phoenix like your brother? What happens if you can't even fly if you really turn into a fat phoenix?" She urged. "All right, quickly light up the fire for me." Little Phoenix heard what she said and rather die than to raise its little head. No way, this little master had already said this earlier. "No drumsticks, I will not light up any fire for you. I have my own principles and stand, so I will not compromise on it." Its little bun face was filled with a solemn expression as it looked extremely serious about this. Huang Yueli couldn't help but frown. This little brat really wasn't obedient at all. Now it's even climbing on top of her head. "All right, you may eat one," she thought for a moment and decided to relent a little. But before her words were finished, a cough was heard by the side, and following that, a man's cold and deep voice was heard. "Why hasn't the fire been lit up?" Hearing that voice, Little Phoenix immediately shivered as it jumped up. Li. When it saw Li Moying, its little face turned palely white, and that flustered look, in Huang Yueli's eyes, was extremely comedic. Little Wang Cai had a lot of guts that sometimes even her, its master, wasn't able to control it totally. But every single time it saw Li Moying, it turned into a real shocked bird, as he could scare that entire bird into a daze. This was considered as one thing curbing another. Li Moying's cold, piercing black eyes calmly swept past Little Phoenix. "You greeted me wrongly. I'm your brother-in-law." Little Wang Cai immediately stood up properly like a little yes-man. "Brother-in-law." Huang Yueli went blue for a moment because she herself could only pretend to be young, saying she was Little Wang Cai's sister. Li Moying actually claimed that he was its brother-in-law. This man's skin was extremely thick. Li Moying didn't continue a single word, only sweeping his gaze towards the bottom of the bathtub. Little Wang Cai acted extremely obediently in front of him, as it immediately figured out what he had in mind and hurriedly sucked in a mouthful of breath and blowing it out ferociously. A mouthful of scorching phoenix true flame fire came surging out. Intense flames arose, and as Little Phoenix had advanced, the fire this time was much hotter and brighter than previous time. Huang Yueli saw Little Phoenix standing obediently beside Li Moying as she couldn't help but shook her head secretly. Whom had this little fellow learnt from, to know how to bully the weak and feared the strong? Could it be that phoenixes all had this kind of character? She walked to the bathtub and her right hand pressed against her own collar as she was just preparing to strip off her clothes to jump in. Suddenly her actions stopped as her mind suddenly thought of something and hurriedly turned over. Right behind her, Li Moying's hands were crossed as he leaned against the wall with a leisure and at ease expression. That pair of black eyes with no end was firmly planted onto her. Huang Yueli's mouth twitched as she stared at him fiercely. "You. What are you looking at? Why haven't you scrammed?" 2 shades of red instantly flushed on her face. You can also listen on. This man was simply too sinister. When on earth had he entered the room? Just as she was prepared to enter the bath, She had already locked the room before releasing little Wang Cai out. In the end, he suddenly appeared and helped her settle little Phoenix. Before this, she totally hadn't noticed that Li Moying was right inside her room. This man had suspiciously appeared here. He absolutely wasn't up to any good. Whereas she was still so silly to have not realized that, almost stripping all her clothes in front of him. The more Huang Yueli thought, the more stuffed she felt as she shot him a dissatisfied look while retorting angrily, "Get out now." Li Moying immediately put on a grieved expression. "You? How could you be like this, tearing the bridge apart after you've crossed it? Earlier when you used me, why didn't you ask me to get out?" Huang Yueli was so angry that she stomped her feet. "You still dare to argue irrationally. Have I asked you to come in or not?" Li Moying appeared even more aggrieved. "I just heard you and little Wang Cai arguing, so I came in to help you. You really don't appreciate a good person's heart. And you actually act so fiercely towards me. Aren't you a little too violent towards your fiancé?" Violent?" Huang Yueli's eyes turned wide, looking at him in disbelief as she really imagined that this man's shamelessness had once again broken a new record to even be able to turn black into white. Furthermore, what's more nonsensical about this was when she saw him frowning slightly with the clear and gloomy eyes. Even though she knew he was pretending, she actually felt a slight heartache for him. Really seen a living ghost. Huang Yueli pushed his chest hard. "All right, now that you've already helped, I don't need you already, so you can retire yourself now." She used a warning expression while looking at this man. Li Moying saw that she was going to fly into a rage and knew that he couldn't continue to tease her, so he could only rub his nose as he awkwardly turned around to leave the room. What a pity. Seeing that this young lass was in a daze today, he thought he would be able to see a beauty getting out of a shower. Huang Yueli shut the door tight as she placed her ear on the door, listening for quite a while to ascertain that there weren't any movements outside before returning to the bathtub, then removing her clothes and jumping right in. The medicinal bath was boiling hot as usual. Furthermore, as little Phoenix advanced, the flame became even more intense. Huang already felt her skin being burnt off a layer soon after she just stepped into the medicinal bath. SSSS, she drew in a mouthful of cold air. This feeling was just too painful, and it was any other ordinary practitioner, they would probably not even be able to stay for one breath's time while screaming to get out. However, Huang Yueli knew clearly that the more painful it was, the more she was able to sharpen herself and the greater possibility that she could raise her own ability. Only those who could face the problem directly were able to stand out, becoming one of the real strong top exponent. She hurriedly held her breath as she congealed her senses, trying to bear with the pain as she moaned, forcing herself to quieten down her heart while working on the cultivation incantation recorded accordingly in 9 Phoenix transformations, operating the cultivation method. Fiery red liquid slowly seeped into her skin as it gradually took effect. After the profound energy in her body went round her meridians for 3 to 4 cycles, the fire-attributed energy merged with her and she gradually became more and more relaxed. Later on, she totally couldn't feel the scorching heat from the medicine bath. She felt as though she was lying in a warm current as her entire body completely extended out while fire-attributed energy continuously surged into her body. You can also listen on. The room was extremely quiet as Huang Yueli silently leaned against the side of the bathtub with her eyes tightly shut. Her entire body was devoted to cultivation as she could not sense the situation in the outside world. So she didn't know that in the corner of the room, unknowing when Li Moying's figure appeared once again. He didn't let out any sound, only concentrating his gaze on the stunning young lady lying in the bathtub. He had once again entered the room not because he harbored any evil intentions. Actually, after he was chased away by Huang Yueli earlier, he didn't want to affect her cultivation, hence he silently stood guard outside the door. However, when Huang Yueli jumped into the bathtub, she suddenly gave off some irrepressible moans which made him so uptight that he almost charged right in. After entering the room, Li Moying started to cool down slightly. Soaking in a medicinal bath which was filled with fire-attributed high-grade medicinal herbs, it would be a wonder if it didn't hurt like hell, and this was part of the process which Huang Yueli had to go through for advancement. He understood the logic very well, but upon seeing Huang Yueli being in such a painful state, his heart was twitching as he basically used up all his self-control before he managed to stop himself from dragging her out. Luckily, about 1 hour ago, Huang Yueli started to relax and no longer moaned as her forehead also started to loosen. This short hour to Li Moying seemed as though an entire year had gone past. Li Moying heaved a sigh of relief, but he didn't nudge at all, unwilling to let Huang Yueli leave his sight. Even though he knew that Huang Yueli was filled with experience for matters related to advancement and that prescription of the medicinal bath from Godrealm was extremely safe, but he still felt uneasy if he didn't witness it with his own eyes. Several hours went by and the sky started to darken. Night fell and gradually turned bright. It was until the second day's wee hours in the morning when Huang Yueli suddenly gave out a low moan. Wu, Li Moying's forehead creased as he shot upwards to her, his pitch-black eyes filled with worry. "Leah, are you all right?" The minute he got closer, he realized that other than her face turning slightly red, there wasn't anything odd with Huang Yueli, so he could finally set his heart slightly at ease. By this time, Huang Yueli actually didn't feel any pain. Following the absorption of the fire-attributed energy in the medicinal bath being taken in by her, the profound energy in her body grew abundant and more powerful as the speed of the profound energy going round her meridians getting faster and faster, to the point of starting to gush towards her dantian. Huang Yueli quickly realized that this was the premonition of advancement. The profound energy in her body was already so abundant to a dangerous point, and as long as she followed the flow and worked a little harder, there was a huge possibility that she could successfully advance to the 5th stage realm. Entering the 5th stage realm, her potential would once again be upgraded and there would be another chance to have a complete change in her body structure. Following the increase of cultivation, the difficulty of breaking through a huge realm gets harder and harder, and 99% of practitioners weren't able to enter the door of the 5th stage realm, but to Huang Yueli, the 5th stage realm was just right before her eyes. She just needed to stretch out her hands to reach it. Everything had been so smooth as the temptation was so strong, but Huang Yueli frowned and found back her rationality, curbing the temptation to immediately advance. She knew that her foundation wasn't stable enough, so this time it wasn't a good time for her to advance. When she broke through to the 4th stage realm, it was just too fast. And now it's just been a month's time and she's about to advance into the 5th stage realm, then her foundation would become more and more unstable. You can also listen on. It was a huge taboo in terms of non-stability in a practitioner's cultivation. If one couldn't stabilize his cultivation properly and merely just pursued the speed of advancing, then his actual ability as compared to same-stage practitioners would be heavens apart. This way, no matter how high his cultivation was, it was merely an illusion as he didn't have the compatible ability to go with. Huang Yueli knew this point deeply, so she held her breath as she congealed her senses, gathering all the power that she had, not to advance but to curb herself from the urge to advance. If any outsider were to see this, they would absolutely be shocked beyond word. Because to ordinary practitioners, it was their dream to be able to advance, as too many of them had tried all the ways they had, but they still weren't able to step over to the 5th stage realm for their entire life. Whereas for Huang Yueli, she actually easily advanced, and so swiftly. But as ironically, she didn't want to advance at all. But wanting to advance was difficult. Not wanting to advance wasn't an easy task to achieve as well. Huang Yueli tried her best to control the surging profound energy within her body and risked her risk to suppress the energy in her dantian, thinking to control it during the critical state of advancement. But the profound energy in her body was overflowing with abundance and wasn't something which she could control with her own energy. Even though she had already exhausted all her energy, but the speed of the flow of the profound energy slightly decreased for a moment, but immediately after that, it started to strike her dantian again. Once and again, the energy continued to grow stronger. Huang Yueli's little face had already flushed red as sweat started to drip down profusely. The scorching pain in her chest seemed as though it was going to explode immediately, but all these were in vain. At the present moment, the profound energy in her body had already been led into a continuously accumulating cycle and wasn't at a state where she could stop anytime she wanted to. She was almost certain that she would be able to advance successfully this time round. Huang Yueli clenched her teeth tightly as she stubbornly refused to give up. Just as her determination had reached the point of collapsing, she suddenly sensed a chilling sensation from her back. A burst of strong and pure profound energy started emitting into her from her back area as it slowly entered her meridians. Originally, different practitioners' profound energy were incompatible with one another, and when other practitioners' profound energy flows into their body, it would meet with the body's basic instinct to resist. But Huang Yueli only felt slightly uncomfortable while this burst of profound energy initially entered her body. Following that, she seemed to feel a familiar and assured feeling as the external profound energy slowly seeped into her body. Not only did it make her felt uncomfortable, instead it made her scorching hot body slowly loosened up. Leah, follow the direction that I'm leading to move your profound energy. A deep mellow male's voice rang by the side of her ear. Right then, Huang Yueli's attention was placed totally on her own profound energy and meridians, so her brain practically had no spare space to think about who the man behind her was. She only felt instinctively that the voice of the owner made her extremely assured, so she immediately followed his instructions. Li Moying sensed her submission and immediately laughed softly, so obedient. Now listen to my instruction, slowly loosen up, don't be overly anxious, don't be afraid, just listen to me. Powerful profound energy continued to surge inwards, but it didn't make Huang Yueli feel invaded or offended. Her profound energy and Li Moying's mixed together as it was led by him, slowly recovering to a peaceful state. You can also listen on. It was after a very long time before Huang Yueli sensed that the urge to advance had completely disappeared. Besides that, under the use of the medicinal bath, the profound energy in her body solidified and became purer as there was an obvious increase in her own ability. She finally heaved a long sigh as her long lashes fluttered slightly, slowly opening her eyes. However, the minute she opened her eyes, the scene she saw gave her a huge shock. Huang Yueli's eyes grew wide as she cried out sharply, how come you're here, you're so shameless. In front of her eyes was an extremely seductive picture of a handsome male coming out from the bath. Li Moying showed off his robust chest as he leaned against the bathtub. He was just sitting right behind her as water droplets dripped down from his collarbone and dripping along his fair skin, across his chest and against that perfectly sculpted abdominal muscles. Lastly, Huang Yueli's gaze followed all the way down only to realize that Li Moying's lower part of his body was soaked in the water and she couldn't see anything beyond that. Just as she was in a daze, Li Moying suddenly laughed. Leah, what are you looking at? The expression on your face looks so horny, and so disappointed. Do you want me to stand up so that you can take a close look? Huang Yueli's face instantly flushed red as though she was about to run a fever. I don't want to see it. Usually sharp-tongued, she suddenly realized that she wasn't able to say a word now. Li Moying intentionally leaned close towards her as he intentionally suppressed his tone, while his voice bore an obvious seductiveness. What's the matter? Really don't want to take a look? I guarantee you will like what you see. Saying that, his body started to move upwards, as though he was about to stand up. Huang Yueli grew anxious as she grabbed his arm. You are not allowed to stand up. Li Moying's vision followed downwards from her slender hand. Huang Yueli too subconsciously lowered her head and went into a pause as she suddenly realized that while soaking herself in the bathtub, she had stripped off completely. Furthermore, the bathtub's water was originally full, but after she had absorbed about 90% of the energy, the amount of water greatly decreased, and now, the water in the tub was only enough to cover the position of her lower abdominal. Which meant to say, anything above her was totally exposed. She had been seen cleanly by this shameless man. No wonder the gaze he gave her earlier was so ambiguous and had even shamelessly bit her back, saying about her expression. Where on earth had this scummy pervert popped out from? Huang Yueli was extremely vexed as she quickly withdrew her hand and covered her chest. Hearing the man giving off soft laughter once again, Huang Yueli was so angry that her face turned green as she stared at him in anger. How on earth did you come in? When I was soaking the medicinal bath, I had obviously made you leave. You actually ran in by yourself again? You actually peep on young ladies bathing? Do you even have a baseline of a human? Li Moying instantly got disappointed when he saw the spring scenery being covered up. Huang Yueli saw his regretful look and almost jumped up in anger. Luckily she recalled that she wasn't wearing anything on her lower half of her body, so she tolerated the urge to do so. Lee Moying admired her kinky, angry and embarrassed expression as he aside her in a lazy manner. "Leah, you cannot not see a good person's heart. You actually framed me in this way? You're my fiancé, so looking at you is open and upright. Haven't you heard of the lover's bath? You can also listen on." Huang Yueli's head almost started to smoke. "What are you saying? Lo. Lover's bath." Lee Moying helped his fiancée, who was suddenly stuttering, completed her sentence out of goodwill. "Lover's bath your head?" Huang Yueli completely turned her embarrassment into anger. You, quickly get out." She pushed Lee Moying's chest in frustration as she tugged and dragged him, trying to whisk him out, but the man's body was strong and well built and his cultivation was far above hers, so she couldn't move him at all. Overwhelmed with shame and rage, her right rose up as a burst of scorching fire glint congealed in her palm. Lee Moying was shocked as well. Although his cultivation was very high and there wasn't anything which Huang Yueli could really do to him, but she still had a genuine deviant flame in her hands, and that was enough to cause a certain amount of damage to him. At such a close distance, he could neither hide nor strike back, so if he was badly bruised by this young lass and his subordinates saw it, then he would really not be able to lift his head up high in the household anymore. He hurriedly pulled onto Huang Yueli's slender wrist as he hastily explained, "Leah, don't be agitated, you've really misunderstood. When you made me go out earlier, I really went out and had been standing guard outside the door. But you kept moaning in the middle of the night from your room and I was worried if you'd run into an accident in the middle of your cultivation, so I ran in." Huang Yueli was stunned as the flame in her hands instantly extinguished. She suddenly recalled that when she almost advanced, her entire body felt terrible, and just when she thought that she was unable to control herself, in the end, she swiftly raised her head and looked at Lee Moying. Lee Moying gave an innocent and pitiful expression. "So do you understand it now? When I entered the room, you looked as though you were about to advance, but you don't seem to be able to control it properly, so I had to give you a hand. But your cultivation method is just too overbearing, so much that even for me, it wasn't easy to suppress your profound energy. In order to help you in a better way, I had no choice but to jump into the bathtub. You know it best, while passing on the energy, the fastest way would be through skin-to-skin contact. In the end, whoever knew that while you were working up your energy, you were not clear-minded and sensing that my profound energy could lower the fire in you, you kept closing into me and even touched me everything. I'm already so pitiful and yet still being maligned by you in this way." He said it in an extremely aggrieved way, as though he was an upright young man, and it was all due to the circumstances which led to him being molested by a masher. Heaven knew that when Huang Yueli closed into him, how excited he was, and on the first timing, he wanted to lie flat to allow her to tease him. Huang Yueli felt that this conversation didn't sound right as she shot him a suspicious glance. Lee Moying pointed to his own shoulder. "Did you see this? This set of teeth marks was left by you yesterday night." Huang Yueli's gaze moved, and she indeed saw 2 rows of neat teeth marks on Lee Moying's well-built shoulders, and in fact it was bleeding. With evidence in front of her, she could only admit to her crime. "All right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have maligned you. Yesterday, thank you for helping me. If it hadn't been for you, I'd definitely have to advance." Lee Moying gave a cold harumph, intentionally giving her a cold look, even looking a little angry. Huang Yueli blinked. "Are you serious? You're really angry?" Lee Moying gave her a glance and didn't say a word. "You can also listen on." Lee Moying naturally wouldn't put on airs over such a small matter with his little fox, but this was a good chance to abduct this young lass, so if he didn't grab it properly, then he would change his surname from Lee to others. Thinking of this, his face became even more arrogantly pampered. "Would I even dare to be angry at you? Anyway, I am a man who harbors ill intentions, so whatever I do is to take advantage of you." I don't mean it in that way." Huang Yueli couldn't tell the jocosity in his eyes, and upon hearing him say that, she immediately started to get anxious. She had already forgotten the fact that she had nothing on and pounced over to him, hugging his waist and raising her head to look at him from below with twinkling in her watery big eyes, attempting to act cute to get past this. "I absolutely don't mean this. In my heart, Li Moying is the best man. She was just short of lifting her fingers, vowing to heavens to prove her loyalty. Li Moying lowered his head and looked at her in the eye. Hearing her say such romantic words, actually Li Moying wanted to say that he had already forgiven her, but Huang Yueli met a pair of star-studded jet-black eyes when she suddenly felt something was amiss. After a moment later, she realized that her lower body seemed to be pressing against a rock-hard thing. This, surely it wasn't the thing she was thinking about, right? This beast was actually turned on. Huang Yueli's expression changed instantly as she simultaneously realized that this man harbored ill intentions, purposely tricking her. She unleashed her fury as she gave Li Moying an angry stare, her expression starting to turn sinister. Li Moying had realized that he had gone overboard and the sweat on his forehead started to drip down. But he felt as though he was treated unjustly. Things had developed to this stage wasn't entirely his fault. It was Leah who had pounced over by herself and kept rubbing him up, so as a normal man, how was it possible that he had no reaction at all? However, at this juncture, his little fox was already seething with anger, so whatever he explained was of no use. Li Moying, you scum whose brain is filled with rubbish, scram right now. In the silent dawn, Celestial Light Sect's young sect master's mansion suddenly rang a young lady's crisp and angry howl. A few shadow guards had already stood guard near their master's bedroom for an entire night and were about to fall asleep. In order not to disturb their master and future mistress from being intimate, they had intentionally hid themselves far, far away, just in case they heard something which they shouldn't hear. Now, when this ear-deafening howl rang, it instantly woke everyone up in shock, as they gazed shockingly towards the door of the master bedroom. Immediately following that, they saw a scene which they would never forget in their entire lives. A loud bam resounded as the master bedroom's door was kicked open and their mighty, awe-inspiring master was chased out of the bedroom. Not only that, he had nothing on him, not even a pair of pants, as he was walking around with his bird in the wee hours of the morning, which was simply an eyesore. All the shadow guards flashed a thought across their minds: Master had been kicked down from third miss bed. However, although they thought about it secretly, no one dared to say it out. They didn't even dare to raise their lips a little, afraid that Li Moying would vent his anger on them. One needed to know that this master of theirs was naturally overbearing, and although he didn't have any face or skin in front of third miss, but that was only limited to third miss alone, anyone else who dared to challenge his authority would die an extremely horrible death. You can also listen on. Actually, it wasn't just the shadow guards who were feeling embarrassed. Li Moying himself was feeling the most embarrassed. He had not succeeded in hoaxing his fiancée into throwing herself at him, he had actually been thrown out by her. Such an embarrassing matter actually fell on him. If it was 1 year ago, he absolutely would not believe this, but now, he felt that this was probably just the beginning. When Li Moying was outside the door, he started to cool down as his icy cold glance shot past that row of shadow guards who hung their heads low. Very good, none of them dared to laugh. This made Li Moying slightly gain some face back. His frigid cold voice called out as though nothing was wrong, "Moa, your subordinate is here." Moa was already rolling around the ground laughing in his heart, but his face still showed a respectful expression as he lowered his brows and eyes while responding to him. "Go get me a set of clothes." He hadn't finished his words when another pong sound was heard and the bedroom door opened once again. This time, a set of dark gold long robe was thrown out of the door, which was exactly what Li Moying wore the night before. The edge of Li Moying's brows twitched as he picked up his clothes and swiftly got dressed. Without even buttoning it properly, he turned around to knock the door. "Leah, open the door. I guarantee that I won't, do that thing, so will you please don't be angry." Huang Yueli replied to him icily, "I want to grab time to cultivate, so don't you come and disturb me." How could this be called disturb? "Leah, open the door." He pushed the door hard, but the door refused to budge. Li Moying deeply felt that having an armament master who specialized in mechanisms as a fiancé was really a tough matter. He called out for her a few more times, but Huang Yueli totally ignored him. He thought about it for a moment and knew that Huang Yueli was still angry and didn't want to bother about him. At the same time, she had just completed her medicinal bath and was really in need of cultivation. So he didn't force her anymore, as he could only hang his head low as he left despondently. Huang Yueli spent a total of 3 days in this time's closed-door cultivation, and Li Moying wandered around for 3 days, being an abandoned grudged man for 3 days. It was until the morning of the arena tournament when Huang Yueli suddenly opened the door, officially coming out of her closed-door cultivation. The minute Huang Yueli stepped out of the door, she saw Li Moying standing in front of the room, and his hand had already raised to his chest level. From the looks of it, he was prepared to knock on the door but was still hesitating to do so. Seeing Huang Yueli coming out on her own, he heaved a sigh of relief. "Leah, you're finally out. I thought you're so angry that you don't even want to take part in the arena tournament anymore." Huang Yueli gave a cold humph. "I'm the one who wanted to take part in the arena tournament, and it had nothing to do with you. Why should I not take part in it because of you?" Li Moying was shot back by her saying as he couldn't say a single word. Because he realized that his little fox was extremely vengeful, and until now, she still wasn't appeased yet. He could only continue to coax her patiently. "I really am just cracking a joke with you. If you're not happy, then I won't do this to tease you ever again. Please stop being angry." Huang Yueli raised her chin. "We'll see your future performance then." Saying that, she raised her foot to step out of the door. Li Moying hurriedly chased up to her as he held her hand. No matter how Huang Yueli tried, she couldn't shake him off, so eventually he just allowed her to hold on to her hand. Li Moying held her on tightly, worried that his Leah would run off, so he tried all ways and means to coax her to make her happy. He hadn't realized that just as Huang Yueli turned her head, a non-existent smile was already showing on her lips. You can also listen on. Mph, who asked this man to pretend to be angry, cheating her to throw herself into his arms. Then she could also pretend to be angry, cheating him to be meek and subservient. The two of them walked hand in hand as they headed towards the public square where the arena tournament was held. When this couple appeared, it attracted various envious and jealous glared. There were too many young ladies who liked Li Moying, whereas after that day's banquet, there were also plenty of young men who secretly admired Huang Yueli. Everyone's eyes fell onto their tightly clasped hands. There was no denial that when Li Moying and Huang Yueli walked together, they were simply too compatible. No matter if it was in terms of looks, temperament or innate talent, they seemed to be a pair made in heaven, making everyone jealous, but there was no choice but to admit that they themselves weren't worthy of this pair. But those inferiority thoughts were only from those ordinary people. To self-professed geniuses like Murong Fei or Lung Fengyi, other than an eye-piercing scene, it was just too eye-piercing. They couldn't wait to replace the other party immediately. As young sect master, Li Moying's seat was at the stage, at a striking position. Furthermore, as he wasn't required to take part today, it added a detached feel. This time, someone had already arranged another joint seat next to his, apparently for Huang Yueli. Li Moying raised his head and saw this arrangement as he silently nodded his head, his mood improving by quite a lot. This meant that he and Leah had already been recognized by the masses, an official couple. He held Huang Yueli's hand as they walked through the arena tournament's competition grounds, walking up the stage. Along the way, both of them walked past Murong Fei. At this moment, Murong Fei was surrounded by a large crowd of direct disciples as everyone wasted no effort in fawning on her. "Eldest young miss, your conditions look great today. Isn't that so?" Eldest young miss's surrounding profound energy is abundant. "Apparently your ability has reached another notch higher again." Murong Fei displayed an unconcealable complacent look as she intentionally said reservedly, "For the sect's glory, to gain the quota for everyone to enter the mystic region, I have been cultivating hard for the past few days until I've forgotten to eat or sleep. Finally I had successfully advanced last night, from 6th stage realm 1st level into 6th stage realm 2nd level. Wow! 6th stage realm 2nd level. Eldest young miss hasn't even reached 18 years old and already at 6th stage realm 2nd level. Wasn't it said that after the 6th stage realm, it was extremely difficult to advance for each small realm? Really didn't expect eldest young miss to improve yet again in such a short time. This is really great. Eldest young miss is so talented, able to upgrade so quickly. No matter how many abilities Green Cloud Sect's people have, how could they be compared with you? Today they'd definitely be beaten pants down. That's right, Today's arena tournament's judges comes from South Sky region's various large sects' elders or top exponents. After today, eldest young Mrs. name will have spread throughout the entire South Sky region. Murong Fei pretended to stop them from talking. Stop spouting nonsense. Green Cloud sect is an established large sect and their abilities cannot be underestimated. I don't dare to say that I will definitely win in today's arena tournament. Although she said that, but whoever saw the smile on her face would tell that she was full of confidence, feeling that this time's arena champion was already in her bag. Just as Murong Fei was riding high, she suddenly saw Li Moying walking over. The moment she saw Li Moying, her senses jolted as she intentionally overlooked Huang Yueli who was beside him. She had been arranging her head in anticipation as she puffed out her chest and walked right towards him. You can also listen on. Eldest senior brother, she greeted him proactively, but Li Moying didn't even bother to glance at her from the side of his eyes, totally treating her like air as he directly walked around her. Murong Fei stood on the spot awkwardly, so embarrassed that she was put on the spot. How could this be possible? Murong Fei's eyes grew wide as she simply could not believe that such a thing happened. From what she thought, today was the important day where she fought for glory for the sect. So even if Li Moying usually didn't want to see her, under today's occasion, he would definitely give her some face and to encourage her. After all, if she didn't show her potential to the fullest, the entire Celestial Light sect would be affected. However, Li Moying persisted in his old ways, without any concern for this at all. Murong Fei's gaze shot towards the young lady who was standing beside Li Moying, as her eyes totally sunk into gloominess. Eldest senior brother wasn't someone who didn't know how to act properly. In the past when he hadn't met Huang Yueli, he would at least give her some face. For occasions like this, he would act out the part of a senior brother and never been so cold to this stage. So all of these were probably instigated by that little slut beside him. It was because of her who used her foxy ways to seduce eldest senior brother, and even blowing pillow wind in front of eldest senior brother for this to have happened. The more Murong Fei thought, the angrier she thought as her hands clenched into fists. Murong De was on the far end of the stage and had been noticing the situation here. On seeing her expression changing, he hurriedly called out, "Feiya, the competition's right about to start. Quickly return to your own seat and stop blocking the way." Murong Fei then regained her senses as she sat back to her seat, but she was still feeling infuriated in her heart. Which of the surrounding direct disciples didn't know what the situation was? Originally they should have followed suit to condemn Murong Fei's love rival, to give her encouragement, but they had all seen how much Li Moying pampered his fiancée in the past few days. So no one dared to say a single bad thing about Huang Yueli, just in case it falls into Li Moying's ears, they would die without a burial ground. The atmosphere instantly turned stiff. It was after some time later when someone spoke out, "Third junior sister, what are you doing? The competition hasn't even started, and if your emotions are affected by some unrelated person, what will you do if you act out of your normal self at the arena tournament?" Murong Fei turned her head back and saw Li Lingchuan as she spoke back in an upset manner, "Second senior brother, you've seen it for yourself. Eldest senior brother actually didn't give me any face for that little slut. If he doesn't even care about the result of the arena tournament, then why should I bother?" Even Li Lingchuan had been injured by Li Moying at the banquet, although he had taken several high-grade medicinal pills, but his recovery still took a lot of time. Until now, he had to rely on the clutch as he limped along the way, not to mention crossing hands with someone at the tournament. Even so, he held out in spite of difficulties to the scene, not to see Murong Fei's embarrassing look. He hurriedly spoke out, "Third junior sister, how could you think in this way? Think about it, why does eldest senior brother like that wretched lass so much? Wasn't it because she was the genius armament master whom who values so much? But you are not any worse off than her. Your cultivational talent is especially strong. An 8th grade innate talented female practitioner, there aren't many in the entire soaring heavens continent. So what if I'm a genius? Eldest senior brother only had that little slut in his eyes and totally couldn't see my innate talent and potential." Murong Fei gritted her teeth as she said that. You can also listen on. Li Lingchuan said, That's why you must grab the opportunity today. This is a chance which heavens had given to you. As long as you're able to display your outstanding ability at the arena tournament stage today, sweeping away all the other opponents, it would definitely make eldest senior brother see you in new light. Think about that. That wretched lass is an armament master, so in terms of cultivation she definitely doesn't have that much innate talent than you, so how much common topics would they have together? By then, eldest senior brother would surely feel that you and him are more compatible. Murong Fei's eyes started to light up upon hearing his explanation. Second senior brother, you treat me the best. What you say is correct. I must perform properly today, and when eldest senior brother regrets it and comes together with him, I will viciously humiliate that little slut. Li Lingchuan hurriedly added, you're not right in doing that. When eldest senior brother regrets it and you get together with him, if you let him get you so easily, how would he know how to cherish you? So even if eldest senior brother sees you in a new light, you cannot agree to him readily. Murong Fei was stunned, not expecting him to say that at all. But upon careful thought, she felt that it really seemed reasonable. She questioned puzzledly, then what should I do? What should I do to make eldest senior brother value me? Li Lingchuan saw her look, which earnestly begged him for his teaching, and knew that she was already hooked as he couldn't help but reveal a deep smile. Actually, it's all very simple. After eldest senior brother regrets it, the more you cannot agree with him. Moreover, you must get together with someone else. In this way it would make him have a rude awakening. This will then make him come chase after you. When Murong Fei heard that, she frowned. How would that do? I take no interest in the other man, so even if it was just a pretense to get together with them, I also can't take it. Just looking at their pug look makes me disgusted that I want to throw up. Li Lingchuan heard that and laughed coldly in his heart. This eldest young miss had really been spoilt rotten, totally not knowing anything about social snobbery. Other people admired her, but she treated them as dogs, insisting on sticking onto the cold Li Moying. No wonder she was hurt all over. Today's outcome was something that she asked for, so she couldn't blame him for scheming on her. Li Lingchuan replied, this you don't need to worry, I can help you. When eldest senior brother regrets it, just tell him that you're with me and I will coordinate with you to make him have a rude awakening. Surely you don't feel that your second senior brother is repulsive, right? Murong Fei went blank for a moment, totally not sensing that Li Lingchuan was up to no good. She gave a joyous look. Second senior brother, you're willing to help me? You're the best. I'll all depend on you then. Li Lingchuan nodded. Hurry back to prepare for the competition. You cannot lose to anyone at the arena tournament. How could that be possible? Without eldest senior brother and that Lung Yifeng, an 8th grade talent like me is hard to come by, so I don't believe that Green Cloud sect can find someone who can match up to me. Murong Fei's self-confidence was already boosting, thinking that later on she could make eldest senior brother regret it. Falling below her feet made her extremely excited. She didn't know that Li Lingchuan's lips had already revealed a chilly smile. This ignorant woman really thought that Li Moying was that kind of capricious scum male? That kind of overbearing man, to be frank, totally didn't care what innate talent his woman had. If he liked her, that meant that he liked her, but he was thankful for Murong Fei's ignorance, giving him the chance to cheat the sect master's daughter into his hands so easily. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli and Li Moying didn't notice the scenario that was happening behind them. They walked all the way to the stage and sat down on their seats next to each other. But as Huang Yueli was still in a cold war with him single-mindedly, she intentionally nudged towards the side. Totally not like the other time at the banquet, sticking to Li Moying's side like a docile pet. Li Moying glanced sideways at her as he helplessly shook his head. This lass was really pampered and arrogant. Wasn't it just seeing her in the buff? Sooner or later he would see still it, so was there a difference if he saw it earlier or later? Moreover speaking, after he had seen it, he had already suffered the worst punishment. Not only did Huang Yueli ignore him, furthermore when he was lying on the bed in the middle of the night, his mind would suddenly surface that scene which he saw on that day. The young lady had a lotus flower-like fair skin, her detailed curvy figure and her slender waist. It seemed to be etched deeply into his mind, unable to disappear. This made him unable to get proper rest as he had to get up in the middle of the night frequently to take cold showers. He wasn't able to work out his cultivation to resist the cold, almost catching a cold. Li Moying picked up the teapot on that low side table as he personally poured some tea and passed it over to the young lady beside him. "Leah, have some tea. In order to entertain the guests from various forces, my master had specially used all the best tea he had collected." Huang Yueli swept a lukewarm glance at him which made Li Moying's heart rumble. Luckily, after she gave a cold humph, she stretched out her arm to take the teacup, delivering it to her lips as she lightly sipped a mouthful. Following that, her expression revealed a satisfied look. Li Moying could tell that this was the 4 signs of her being appeased as he hurriedly brought up the plate from the table. "This Osmanthus candy cake is something that you love. I've specially instructed that main chef Lin whom you liked, to prepare this. Among all the tables here, only we have this. Have a taste." His slender long fingers picked up the Osmanthus candy cakes, delivering to Huang Yueli's mouth. Huang Yueli originally didn't want to eat, but this candy cake's Osmanthus fragrance was too intense, wearing out her determination. Furthermore, her gaze swept around the surroundings and realized that there indeed was only one set of candy cake in front of her, which made her mood lifted up instantly. She lowered her head and took a bite. "It's delicious." Her eyes turned to curve upwards. This little glutton. Li Moying almost wanted to throw up blood. A peerless, handsome, charming male like him actually couldn't even be compared to a set of Osmanthus candy cake. What logic was this? But since Huang Yueli was finally appeased, it made him heave a sigh of relief. Huang Yueli ate the entire piece of Osmanthus cake in his hand and licked the corners of her lips as she turned around to take a look at the situation. By now, the entire public square was filled with people. Other than Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect's disciples, there were many other sects people from South and West Sky regions. Huang Yueli quipped curiously, "Why are there so many people?" Li Moying couldn't help but smile when he finally heard her talking to him on her own, so he explained, "There are too many situations arising because of this arena tournament, and as my master and sect master Kui don't trust each other, so they invited quite a number of other sects forces whom they are familiar with, to be a witness." Huang Yueli frowned, but in this way, if the matter regarding the ancient mystic region was revealed, wouldn't it bring about even more trouble? Li Moying smiled, "Relax, these 2 sect masters aren't ordinary people, so would they even leave this out of their considerations? You can also listen on anything regarding the ancient mystic region. Among the 2 sects, only those practitioners who were direct disciples and above knew about it. Ordinary disciples totally don't know about this, thinking that this is just an ordinary tournament. Anyway, we Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect had always been at loggerheads, so this isn't something which just happened recently." Hearing Li Moying's explanation, Huang Yueli was suddenly enlightened. "I see." After a while later, various powerhouses' guests started to be seated. Murongde and Kui Yuan Shan exchanged glances and stood up. "Welcome all, gracing us with your presence to the joint arena tournament between Celestial Light Sect and Green Cloud Sect. Without further ado, let's enter into the main topic. Now, our sect will first state the regulations of the tournament." Huang Yueli was sipping her sip while listening in boredom. The regulations in an arena tournament weren't really anything special, which was the usual regulations used in the entire Soaring Heavens continent. Any disciples in the 2 sects could have a try in the arena and the victor would become the arena champion. The defeated party can send out their disciples to challenge the arena champion, and if they won, the challenger would take over to become the new arena champion. Of course, as this was a competition between the 2 sects, in order to prevent the losing sect from using the tactic of several persons taking turns in fighting one opponent to tire him out, there was an additional regulation. That was if the arena champion had been challenged 3 times and had continuously obtained victory, then he would automatically become the final arena champion and the other sect can no longer continue to challenge that person. After Murongde announced the regulations, he turned his head to take a look at Kui Yuan Shan. "Sect Master Kui, do you have anything additional to add on?" Kui Yuan Shan shook his head. "The regulations are a result of the 2 sects' mutual agreement, so I have no objections." "Good, then let the arena tournament officially begin. Will those disciples who want to fight for the arena champion please come on the stage?" Murongder had just finished his sentence when disciples from both camps stood out, several people, fighting to get up on stage. But other than the initial people who moved the fastest, right after the first two jumped onto the stage, the others were all stopped by the judges. Huang Yuli took a careful look and discovered that these two disciples' cultivation weren't that high. One was 5th stage realm 2nd level and the other was 5th stage realm 1st level. Anyone below 18 years old who had reached 5th stage realm were considered as a top-rated expert among the ordinary practitioners. Alas, under the official tournament's arena between the two sects, this bit of cultivation immediately wasn't enough at all. Indeed, the two of them had just got on stage and hadn't even started fighting when ridicule started flying all below the stage. Isn't there anyone else in Celestial Light sect? Why did such a cultivation trash even dare to come on stage to make a spectacle out of himself? 5th stage 1st level, in Green Cloud sect, are the lowest ranked practitioners in the last rung among direct disciples. TSK. No wonder they said other than young sect Master Li, Celestial Light sect totally had no one left. Green Cloud sect's people naturally didn't let go of any chance, using various ridicule, whereas Celestial Light sect's disciples naturally weren't weak, as well as they immediately huffed back at them. Why? What's so outstanding about your Green Cloud sect? The disciple up there is merely just 5th stage realm 2nd level, isn't it? Just higher by one level. You have the cheek to say such stuff. Isn't that so? Looks like Green Cloud sect's potential is just SOSO as well. Feel that you're outstanding? We don't even need young sect master to take part, and we will still be able to beat you up so hard that you are frightened out of your wit. Both parties started their tongue fights and was extremely clamoring, even more exciting than the actual battle on stage. You can also listen on. As for the other small sect's disciples who had followed their masters over to view the battle, all of them were dumbstruck from hearing those introductions. An 18-year-old 5th stage realm practitioner, in their sects, was already a top-notch talent. Some large sects' eldest disciples had not even reached this cultivation level, but in Celestial Light sect and Green Cloud sect's disciples' view, this was nothing at all. Were the disciples' abilities in these two large sects really that strong? Actually, both sects' disciples were merely bickering, and most portions of what they said were exaggerated, but cultivations in the entry level of the 5th stage realm was indeed not very high. In this kind of arena tournaments, in order to prevent the other sects from accidentally winning or exhausting their trump card disciples' potential, they would mostly send ordinary disciples up first. Those who were fighting to get up the stage knew that they would absolutely not become the last man standing, but to be able to display themselves at this kind of occasion in front of South and West Sky regions' powerhouses, this was a rare chance to show their face. If they were able to defeat their opponent beautifully, perhaps they might even attract the higher management's attention within their own sects, leaping to become a talent which the sect would focus on nurturing. The arena's battle scene was intense, and the two practitioners had just fought for a quarter of an hour when the victor emerged. Green Cloud sect's disciples' cultivation was a little higher, hence he obtained victory to become the arena champion. However, before he was able to cheer, another Celestial Light sect's disciple immediately jumped onto the stage, challenging him. This time round, the other party came prepared and had already saw through that their cultivation methods and attributes were of the opposition factor, hence he came up to challenge him. So Green Cloud sect's disciples immediately got beaten until his head was covered with dust as he gloomily scrammed down the stage. The entire process had not even exceeded 10 breaths. But the new arena champion didn't manage to maintain his seat as well and was kicked off the stage very quickly. Momentarily, the tournament ground's atmosphere surged up and the arena champion kept changing like traffic lights. This kind of chain battles easily spiked the opponent's enmity as the mass disciples below the stage entered a bickering battle which also surged upwards. Huang Yueli initially took a few more glances, but after a while, she started to doze off. She used her hand to prop up her chin as she tried her best to resist against Zhu Gong's, God of Dreams, calling while her eyelids grew heavier and heavier. In order to wake herself up, she hurriedly turned her head over to call out for the man beside her. Moying, what are you thinking about? By her side, Li Moying's handsome face was filled with the same kind of coldness and aloofness, as he kept watching the scene in front silently, as though he didn't feel bored at all. But he didn't answer Huang Yueli's question. Huang Yueli frowned. Moying? Still no response. She finally couldn't take it as she leaned over to poke his arm. Poked once and there was no reaction, so she poked once more, but there was still no reaction. Huang Yueli's brows rose as she patted his shoulder hard. Li Moying finally jolted in shock abruptly as he turned around to look at her. Leah, what's the matter? His expression bore an easy grace and his actions were elegant and conceited, totally not displaying any guilty or shocked expression. 3 black lines slipped down from Huang Yueli's forehead, straight face. This man had obviously fallen asleep. He actually could fall asleep while sitting. She rolled her eyes at Li Moying as she replied to him in a sarcastic manner, "Young sect master Li, is it really all right for you to behave in this way? If the disciples below who are working hard find out that their respected young sect master actually fell asleep, what would they think? You can also listen on." Li Moying smiled indifferently, totally with no sense of guilt over being exposed. "Anyway, there's no chance for me to participate, so who cares how they think? Furthermore, you are ignoring me, so are you stopping me from sleeping?" Actually, he was so sleepy all because of this young lass. Taking cold showers for the past few days, he totally hadn't slept much at all. Furthermore, if he was sitting beside someone else, based on his alertness, he wouldn't be able to sleep at all. It was because his Leah was right beside him which made him felt at ease. As he was saying that, he raised his head and suddenly said, "Yi? Jiyun, this fellow, his condition isn't bad at all today." Huang Yueli originally wanted to poke fun at him, but hearing what he said, she turned her head over to look at the stage. Indeed, Luo Jiyun was in the middle of a battle with a blue-robed disciple. Luo Jiyun was already a 5th stage realm 5th level practitioner now. Moreover, as his innate talent was at 8th grade, his comprehension was very good, so his ability in terms of actual combat was enough to challenge 5th stage realm 7th or 8th level practitioners. Now the blue-robed disciple whom he was battling with was at 5th stage realm 7th level. Compared to the previous time at Dark Moon Forest, Luo Jiyun's ability had an obvious upgrade. He was no longer indecisive, and every single time he struck, it was extremely decisive. Even though his opponent's cultivation was higher than his by 2 levels, he still had the upper hand. Later on, he obtained victory as expected. The victor of this round is Celestial Light Sect's direct disciple, Luo Jiyun. After the judge announced the result, Green Cloud Sect's side went into an uproar, seemingly unable to accept this result. Earlier in the competition, Green Cloud Sect's practitioners obviously had an advantage. Every single time Celestial Light Sect's side won, it was all because their cultivation was much higher, so this was the first time Celestial Light Sect's disciples actually challenged someone from Green Cloud Sect whose cultivation was higher than his by 2 small realms, and even gained victory so easily. Witnessing this scenario, Murongda's face revealed slight signs of complacency as he fiddled with his beard while talking to Kui Yuanshan beside him. "Brother Kui, what do you think of my 5th disciple? He's one of those who ranks behind among my other disciples. So this time he was lucky to have gained victory, all thanks to your disciples' care." Kui Yuanshan was so angry that his whiskers were jumping as he silently cursed that defeated disciple, but on the surface, he looked calm. "Humph, this is just by accident. Consider his good luck. Don't tell me he's able to win 3 rounds in a row." "Hehe, that's hard to say." Murongda also felt that it was impossible, but he refused to admit his loss verbally. Luckily, Luo Jiyun lived up to his expectations and consecutively defeated 2 challengers. Huang Yueli really liked this kind and considerate young man as her eyes started to glow from watching his matches. Junior brother Luo is really too incredible. After you've personally mentored him previously, he gained a huge improvement this time round. He has already overcome his character's weak point, so with a little more discipline, he will definitely become a top-rated expert in the South Sky region. But he had already won 2 rounds. This 3rd round, Green Cloud Sect wouldn't admit defeat so easily, right? Li Moying nodded his head. "What you said is correct. Luo Jiyun will probably lose in this round." Huang Yueli heard that and turned his head to take a look. He saw a tall and thin young man slowly walking up the stage, whereas Luo Jiyun's expression immediately turned grave. "Who is this person?" she asked curiously. Li Moying replied, This is Kui Yuanshan's third disciple, name is Fang Xiaoning and his cultivation is already at 6th stage realm first level. You can also listen on. The last time Green Cloud Sect came over to Celestial Light Sect for a tournament, I came back late and hadn't seen him enter the competition. But from what I heard from the others, his ability should have surpassed Jiyun's. Huang Yueli suddenly saw the light. I see. A practitioner who was outstanding in actual combat, challenging a practitioner who was much higher than himself by 1 or 2 small realms might still possibly gain victory, but if the opponent's ability had surpassed the level of a large realm, then if he wanted to gain victory, unless he was peerless geniuses like Huang Yueli or Li Moying, otherwise it's totally impossible. The minute this Fang Xiaoning got up the stage, Luo Jiyun totally had no show. The truth was just as she expected. Even though Luo Jiyun expended every move he had, yet he was still defeated by the opponent in a short amount of time. After Fang Xiaoning became the arena champion, his face revealed a delightful smile as he provoked Celestial Light Sect. I'm so sorry, senior brothers and sisters of Celestial Light Sect, thank you for letting me win. I originally wanted to leave some face for senior brother Luo, but I'd not expected Celestial Light Sect's practitioners to be so weak. He can't even take 3 moves from me. So I'm so sorry for that. Although he said he was sorry, but everyone could tell the complacency from his tone. Earlier when he was on the stage, he totally didn't hold back when he struck. The 3 moves which he struck were extremely incisive attacks, directly beating Luo Jiyun till he totally could not counterattack. Earlier when Luo Jiyun was kicked down from the stage, he looked extremely disheveled. Luo Jiyun lost the competition and was already feeling gloomy. Upon hearing Fang Xiaoning taking his undeserved gain for granted, he was feeling so upset that his eyes turned red. Disciples from Celestial Light Sect were also extremely infuriated as all of them started shouting out loud. Simply too much. What's the meaning of this? How dare they say our Celestial Light Sect's practitioners are too weak? That's right. Fang Xiaoning didn't even consider the fact that he's already in 6th stage realm whereas our senior brother Luo is just at 5th stage realm 5th level. It would be strange if he could beat him. Earlier hadn't Green Cloud Sect even sent a 5th stage realm 9th level practitioner to challenge senior brother Luo? Senior brother Luo crossed the boundary of 4 small realms and surpassing levels to gain victory. It's so incredible and yet they have the cheek to say senior brother Luo is weak. Fang Xiaoning is merely using the fact that his cultivation is higher. Fang Xiaoning stood on the stage as he faintly heard all the discussions regarding him. His lips curled into a slight smile of ridicule. Why? You don't seem like you're convinced. Then come on stage and challenge me. Quick, grab hold of the time. The earlier I beat the 3 weaklings from your Celestial Light Sect, the earlier I can go back to report to my master. These words were even more undue. He directly said Celestial Light Sect's people were all weaklings, so who could tolerate this? Celestial Light Sect's disciples all burst out in anger. Fang Xiaoning, what are you being complacent about? It's not as though we don't have any 6th stage realm practitioners in Celestial Light Sect, so later we'll beat you running off in a jiffy. That's right, you'd better hurry and wipe your neck clean. Just wait to die. Although they said that ordinary disciples could only cry out with their mouths and had no skills to go up against a real 6th stage realm top exponent. 6th stage realm practitioners, among direct disciples, was an extremely rare existence. But, luckily, a 6th stage realm direct disciple quickly walked out of the crowd and jumped onto the stage. Huang Yueli felt that the person looked rather familiar and asked, "Who's that now?" Li Moying swept a slight glance. "Oh, that seems to be Elder Han's eldest disciple. He should be called Jie Shishin, also at 6th stage realm first level. But he won't be able to win. You can also listen on." Huang Yueli couldn't help but burst out laughing. Do you need to put things in this way? You're Celestial Light Sect's young sect master. How could you say that your side's practitioners would lose? Isn't this growing other people's morale and diminishing your own might? Li Moying casually grabbed her little hand as he squeezed it and said lazily, "I'm just speaking the fact." Fang Xiaoning's ability seemed to have ascended by quite a bit. From the 3 moves that he made against Jiyun earlier, He could have possibly broke through to 6th stage realm 2nd level recently, but even so, the profound skill that he cultivates is very special. He can attack and defend, and if Li Lingchuan was the one there, he would still be able to defeat him. But this Jie Shushin, he still has a long way to go. Towards his judgment, Huang Yueli naturally had no doubts at all. Li Moying had already regained a portion of his memories from his past life, and based on his past life's foresight as Soaring Heavens Continent's #1 top exponent, to watch this third-rated sect's young disciples arena tournament, he absolutely would not judge wrongly. No wonder he was so bored earlier till he actually fell asleep. After Jie Shushin got on stage, he started off with an aggressive posture, intending to defeat his opponent at one go. According to his understanding, Fang Xiaoning was already a top exponent among the younger generation in Green Cloud Sect. If he could defeat him, then Green Cloud Sect would not be able to send any other practitioner who was more powerful than him. In this way, he would become Celestial Light Sect's greatest contributor. The minute he thought of this, Jie Shushin's blood started to boil as he was extremely excited. However, right after he got on stage, he discovered that he was extremely wrong. No matter what moves he made, how many exquisite profound skills he activated, or revolving how much pure profound energy, he was not even able to even touch a corner of Fang Xiaoning's sleeve. Jie Shushin didn't believe in this as he clenched his teeth and continued with his attacks. Fang Xiaoning however laughed as he said, "Senior brother Jie, your attack is really weak. Hurry and show me your real ability. Today is an official arena tournament, and if you continue fooling around like this, it's a total waste of time." Jie Shushin almost couldn't breathe. He wasn't fooling around. Every single move he made exhausted all his energy, but Fang Xiaoning still felt that his attack was too weak. Could it be that Fang Xiaoning was really that strong? How could that be possible? Jie Shushin was extremely shocked as sweat started to drip down on his forehead. But Celestial Light Sect's disciples below couldn't tell the oddity in him as they continued to encourage him. "Senior brother Jie, play up. Kick that fellow surnamed Fang off the stage. Just looking at that complacent face makes me disgusted." Jie Shushin was in a tough position and could only tried his best, using his ultimate killer move. Fang Xiaoning gave a cold laugh as he rolled up his sleeves and a burst of profound energy crashed right into his. The disparity between the two was simply too huge, and while they were going up against each other, it appeared vivid and incisive. Jie Shushin lost control of his body as he flew outwards and spat out a mouthful of blood in mid-air, crashing onto the ground below the stage. Celestial Light Sect's side instantly became silent. They had never expected that although they were both at 6th stage realm, the disparity between the abilities was actually so wide. Jie Shushin fainted totally the minute he hit the ground, losing all consciousness. On the stage, Murongda's expression became steely green. Jie Shushin was already considered as one of the top disciples among those in Celestial Light Sect who were taking part in the arena tournament, and Murongda had high hopes for him. Whoever knew that he was actually so useless, to have lost so terribly with a practitioner whose cultivation was very similar to his. You can also listen on. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.